And we're live. What's going on, everybody? Looks like Steven won the contest to see you get in here first. And I was asking Clint earlier, how in the world y'all see this before I actually go live? So, welcome everybody to Distilling 101. You have questions? We got the answers. No questions too stupid to ask. Only dumb questions is the ones you won't ask, afraid to ask. So we're not going to treat you like they do in some of the groups. We're not going to say, "Oh, that's the dumbest shit I ever heard," or "dumbest question." You should know all this browbeating stuff. And there's all my notifications coming in. But yeah, that's kind of one of the reasons we started it, because you're not going to get that here. So ask questions, ask anything you want. That's how we learn. That's how the people that think it's a stupid question, that's how they learned it the first time. They either asked a question or heard somebody else ask it or found it somewhere. And one of the problems is a lot of times when you find your answer somewhere, you found the wrong answer. When somebody answers it for you, sometimes they give you the wrong information, and so it's not that that you're ignorant or don't know. It's sometimes you just got misinformed, and that you think that you have the right answer, and then a lot of times somebody asks you, and you tell them, what somebody told you, and it just keeps going down the line like that little lie, and we got like to anything factual based, opinions, of course, are opinions, but anything factual, we like to try to keep it fact. And what's going on, everybody? What's going on, Callie? Good to see you, brother. Good to see Steven. First in. What's going on, Brian? Callie in the house here. We got a couple of Callies. Good to see y'all. So y'all know the drill. I got to share these damn links, and got to share one with Clint. And let's see. Let me give this one to Clint first. The Streamcast. So that'll take you a second. I'm getting a little better at this. Damn, Clint, you way down the list, bro. You need to. Oh, there you are. No, you weren't. I was gonna say, man, you need to message me more often. All right, there you go, brother. I'm gonna. Cool. All right. I just learned something about my new Weller Green. The new bottles have a gold top and a cork instead of the old screw top like what I've got on mine. It's good to know. I like that Weller Special Reserve. It's pretty good stuff. I like it. That's what I spoil myself with, though. Elijah Craig, I like that Elijah Craig about as good as anything. And Evan Williams, Bottle and Bond, I like that pretty well too for lower cost bottles. Awesome, really good stuff for the price. Yeah, more than 10. Hopefully, I can squeeze in a little more than 10. What's going on, Mike? Good to see you, brother. So let me get them shared, and we'll get back to it. But yeah, I'll take a picture of that, show y'all. For your Weller drinkers. I like that Heaven Hill stuff. Buffalo Trace and Heaven Hill, both good shit. Yeah, Heaven Hill, that's the Evan Williams, and the Heaven Hill bottomed them bombs probably about the same as the Evan Williams. It's a little bit more expensive than the Evan Williams, and I really can't tell much difference in the taste in them. I have to look at my bourbon chart here a little bit later and see if it's the same grain bill. Maybe there's a little bit of difference in them. But first and foremost, let me get these links shared before it gets too late. 8:04. Uh-oh. Clint, I sent you the wrong damn. I did. Oh, shit. Wait, no, I didn't. No, I didn't. Okay, let me. All right. I thought I sent you the wrong link, but I did not. Okay, here we go. I'll be all right. Let me get my list. All righty. So for everybody down at Popcorn Sutton Jam, I hope y'all having a good time down there. I didn't know we weren't going to have a podcast last night. I'd have pulled Phil Billy or somebody on here and had a little mini shit show or something. But we took a little break, I guess. It'd be all right. So hope everybody down there's having a good time. Wish I could be there. But Mikey didn't come get me. He didn't message me or nothing. You're at Mikey. Do you feel sorry for me, brother? I think I scared him away when I said we can share a room. Like that. Riding that sumbitch for 3 or 4 hours is enough for me. Sharing rooms, nope, not happening. Nah, I'm just kidding. No, Mikey's good. He's a good boy. He's a good dude. I like old Mikey. Makes some pretty good liquor too. For a Hoosier, him and Alan Bishop both. The Hoosierites. We got any other Hoosiers in here? Yeah, I would have loved to have been there, but I can't just go to them all. I wish I could. I don't see how some of these people go. I guess they're young enough they can drive. There's some of them, man, they don't miss a show. They go to 10, 15 festivals a year. Damn, I get tired of just thinking about doing that. I sweat thinking about it. Yeah, I got some plants put out. I bought some tomatoes and pepper plants, and I got them put out, about half of them. About 16 tomatoes. I only have 4 pepper plants, but he's bringing me more this week. So I like having my little garden, little bucket garden. It's all we need. We make some good salsa in it. And we have fresh tomatoes for all our meals and fresh peppers to go into all the stuff. Trying something new this year. I don't know if y'all ever tried any of these called a lunchbox pepper. And they look about like a jalapeno, a lot like jalapeno, about the same size. They're a mini pepper. But these are orange variety, I guess. But they don't have a lot of seeds, and they're sweet and fruity tasting. So that'll be interesting. A lot of people love them. This guy's first time he's tried them. And so I got some of those to try. But he didn't have my jalapenos and poblanos, so I'm going to try to start those from seed. It's a little bit late for that. I wasn't counting on having to do that. So I might get some late summer, some fall peppers out of them. That'll be fine. I love those poblanos. Oh, man, those are so good. They are really good. And this guy's one that turned them on to me a couple of years ago. I'd never had them before, and so we kind of substituted. Well, I had green bell peppers, but so we decided to try them as stuffed peppers. And man, they are so good. Stuffed, with the rice and meat and all that. It was really, really good. I like them. They're kind of spicy, but not hot. But they have they're very rich, good flavor, real good flavor to them. If you never tried them and you like peppers, you definitely got to try them. You'll be glad I told you. because they are awesome. You'll never want a bell pepper again, especially if a little bit of tang and spice. I mean, they're not like, real hot, spicy, or anything like that, but man, they are good. Very, very good. Let's see how far I got to go this time. It's the weekend. Let me go get them all in there so I don't have to come back. Yep. Same spot. All right. We'll come back at 9 and get those. And Stephen will remind me it's 9/11 or 8/11, so at 9/11 I can add some more 9/12. Stephen's good. He's got a good memory. I don't. All right, where were we? There's old Seashine. What's going on, man? I'm not. I didn't get it. I don't know if they did maybe a remote or something. I didn't see nothing on militia page. Yeah, I didn't see anything. What's going on, Patty? Good to see you, brother. What is my thoughts on oaking and glass compared to a wood barrel? Well, nothing's going to replace a wood barrel in time, and respiration in and out of the wood and the temperature changes. Nothing really can replace that. But it's probably the next best thing. So I think going with staves and something large is a lot better. I think the smaller the medium gets, the worse it gets, and I'll explain why. So like the large staves or the oak spirals, those, I think the charred spirals and stuff, I think those work pretty well too. Of course, it's not like a barrel, but it does give it that smoky, charred flavor that I love. But it's just not going to give it the character that time it's, you're not going to get the esterification, and you're not going to get the maturity, and you're not going to get a lot of the notes that it gets, a lot of the vanillas and the nuttiness and a lot of the things and the tannins you get the tannins that it gets from the wood. That is one thing that you will get is tannins, which brings a little bit of the bitterness and the smoky char flavor, which that bitter char, adds a lot. It'll give your white dog a good character. It's better than just straight white dog, in my opinion. Some people prefer just straight white dog. They don't care about all that. And one reason too, when you do that, you're going to have to make tighter cuts. So you'll hear us talk about aging process and esterification, and keeping a little bit of the heads, hearts heads margin there, and a little bit of the hearts to tails margin in there for esterification and aging. That's for more of a long term thing. If you're going to age short term with just wood like that in just a few months, probably best just to try to keep mostly hearts in there. But it does add good. But I think the chips probably not as good as the big staves or the spirals. And then they've got this thing called Shiner's Beard, and it's just like wood shavings, just like long charred shavings. And as soon as you drop those in, it automatically gives it color. And that's just no bueno at all, man. That's just pure tannins. You might as well just take sawdust and throw in there on it, char some sawdust, throw it on it, and then run it through a coffee filter. No, I didn't tell you to do that, but it's probably about the equivalent, and it's just no, instant color like that. That's just pure tannins. You can order tannins. Wine companies sell tannins. We add tannins. I've got some chestnut tannins that I add to some of my dark wines, and you can order tannins. Just pure tannins if you just want the color. But it just adds a bitterness without that char. So I think the best thing to do is take just the wood staves and just, plane off or sand or clean up the gray part on the barrel side on the outside and just char all sides of it, rechar every bit of it, on the tops and bottoms where it's been cut, and just drop those in there, and it'll give it some good character. It'll be good. It's not going to be as good as a barrel. The small barrels, that'll be probably next to a barrel. So when you get like a 5-gallon barrel, you age it 8 months. That's going to be pretty damn good. It's going to be better than the stave or the spirals. You get a 15-gallon barrel and you age for a year and a half in it, and it's going to be pretty damn good. Now, the stainless barrels with the wood cap, those are designed to pretty much replicate a real barrel. So it's going to take a few years on those when you use those to age with. So if you want more rapid aging without getting the miner's beard or the chips, the small chips, I mean, it's okay, but it's best to buy the staves or the spirals and just char the shit out of them. Put a big piece in a jar, and it'll have enough surface area where it'll do just as quick as those, small chips. But I don't know, it just doesn't give as much tannins and gives a little bit more flavor. Might take a little bit longer too, but that's my preferred way other than a barrel. I've got two 15s and a 5, and then I got some of the stainless barrels, and then I got a whole bag full of staves that I can use. Good question. Hey Amy, how are you? I'm not Philbilly. I'm Bad Santa, but we post this on Philbilly's channel. Philbilly's he's the head of the Moonshine Militia, and me, Tom, and Damon, we're the next guys down, and but we all share the podcast. We do run this on his show, on his channels and mine, and the Militia channels as well, and a lot of channels on Facebook. So thank you for joining us. I'm a lot better looking than Philbilly, What's going on, Penny? Yeah, I tell you what, man, it does mine too. Yeah. Well, that's one of the things about it. Hopefully we can get it where it's legal. It should be. This should be part of our life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness. We talk about it often, but can't say it often enough. It's something that we should be able to do in the privacy of our own homes. And they don't tax us for growing our own gardens. They don't tax us for making our own beer. They don't tax us for making our own wine. And why can't we make our own whiskey? It's something that we may consume. So we're avoiding purchasing something and paying taxes on it. Sure. It's like when I have a home garden, I'm avoiding having to go to the store and pay those prices for tomatoes. Yeah, I could probably easier just go to the store and pay for tomatoes and pay the tax on them. So am I evading taxes by growing my own garden? I don't think so. I'm avoiding a lot more than that. Thank you very much. Your potatoes are growing crazy? Yeah, my taters are done. I've got to get my column. I got to get my glass part for my column. I don't know if I'm going to end up just buying it or what, but I came in, it broke, and they said I could send it back, but I hate sending the whole damn column back and paying $20 in shipping, them turn around and send a whole column back, and pay $20 in shipping. And it's just $40 in shipping going back and forth for a part that costs $40 and maybe $5 to ship. It's just kind of stupid. And I don't, hopefully I can try to call them. I couldn't get up with anybody. Hopefully they'll call me, but I'll keep trying until they get up with me. I hate wasting money because it's their money, but I still hate wasting it. I don't want them to have to pay, to ship all this shit back and forth and me, then refund my money and then me just turn right around and buy another one. And them have to pay to ship it, so that's them shipping this back, paying $20 and then refunding my money and then turning around, me buying another one and then shipping it back, spending another $20 or $30 all just because of one little globe, So hopefully we can I can get somebody on the phone or to answer me. When you deal with eBay, you have to deal with the middleman there, and there's always a lot of shit lost in translation. I'd like to be able to just talk to them, but I know that's kind of against eBay's policy. But I mean, they do have their own website, so maybe I'll just start ordering it through their website, so I can deal with them directly instead of having to deal with the middleman. Probably save them money too. But yeah, my potatoes did real well, and they smelled real good too. I'd like to get them going now. I may just run them now and strip them with the column that I do have and the deflag, and just run it all through and do a strip and run on it, and do a second run on the column to refine it. Yeah, they look like these look like jalapenos. They're just real long. Let me find a little picture of them. I love them, man. They say they're going to be really good. People talk about them. They got like a real sweet, fruity flavor. So I'm looking forward to it. I only got the orange ones. I wish I'd. Let me get a picture of them here. Yeah, that's the same picture I saw when I looked the first time. Out of stock. I can see why. They're dang good. But I got the orange ones. Let me see here. I like share screen. Wrong. Not share screen. Image. Screenshots. Boom. This is what they look like. Mine are the orange ones. Yeah, this look like a big old jalapeno. Yeah, they say that they're really good. Let's see what the website here says about them. Lunchbox peppers, perfect for snacking. These sweet, crunchy peppers, perfect size for tossed in a lunch bag. I guess that's why they call them. They're small, 2 or 3 inches. Warm season crop zones 9 and 10. You can plant them in the spring through late summer. So hopefully my other peppers will do all right, my poblanos and stuff. Those 2 through 8. 8 weeks prior to the last frost. So I'm going to be late, probably in my zone, but it'd be all right. For the poblanos, I love them poblanos, and my jalapenos got to have those too, man. Gonna do a raised garden. I saw Temu had these big metal, look kind of like a window well for a basement, but they're just oblong. Kind of look like a trough for animal feed and stuff, but I don't think they have a bottom. I think it's just the sides, but galvanized steel, and they were pretty cheap. But yeah, I just do the bucket thing. I used to have a big garden. I've got a rototiller, and I used to till up part of my yard and stuff at the old house and put in a big garden back there. But yeah, the only place I would be able to do that here would be along a fence row, which would be okay. But there's a lot of hedges and stuff along that fence that shade it. And along my back fence, I got a lot of pine trees and stuff. The soil's very acidic, and it's real clay soil. Real soil here's got a lot of clay, and it's hard pan. But the other house in Garden Side subdivision, it used to be a big, huge garden. That whole subdivision used to be a big, massive garden back in the days. Probably a plantation at one time. But yeah, I got an old rototiller from the 70s. I got to do a little work on it. the motor went out. I've got a new Honda motor, not a new Honda motor, but a working Honda motor to put on there. But I've not gotten around to doing that. But I've got a lot of projects like that I need to start getting taken care of. But it's a nice old tiller. I think it's a Homelite from back in the day. It's blue and white. It's a nice one. The midnight hour. I had a small single pot still I used to use in my kitchen. I could get a pint out of it. It exploded and left copper in your ceiling. Wow, man, that'll happen. Got to be careful. It's lesson to everybody. You got to be really careful about, I had one about blow on me, and because mud daubers got my damn worm, and just made a big, huge mud house in there, and I wasn't getting any drip, and I'm like, man, I should be getting a drip by about now. I looked, this thing was about busting at the seams, and it was a pressure cooker. You talk about a bomb. And so I shut her down, and sure enough, we cored out and bored out that, tried to blow through the worm. I wasn't using a thumper off that, and sure enough, it caked up thick as hell with mud dauber nest and everything. It was small copper though; it was like 3/8. It was a small setup too. But yeah, they've got some a lot safer stuff out now, and they've got gaskets where it'll kind of blow out the sides before it's going to build up enough pressure in these vevers. And these, let me show you what they got nowadays. It's a lot safer. You can use these in the kitchen as well, but they're going to be a lot safer for you to use. And there's a rubber gasket, silicone gasket that goes all the way around this rim here. And before it builds enough pressure to explode, it's going to just blow steam past that, that silicone gasket this is clamped against, right? So, but there's really nothing for it to clog up except for the canister filter on there. Now, a lot of people will, there's a lot of secondary markets that, Phil Billy and a bunch of other people, Wayne and I think Appalachian and a couple of, I'm sure most any of the steel builders can build you a worm that comes right off that football, or you can make a copper cap come right off this pot, and that way you get your copper that you want where you want it. But yeah, it's a lot safer, and you can add pressure relief valves where you see this airlock on this. It's just showing you that you don't run it with that on there, but you can take that off and take that out. It's like a 1/4 inch, and you could replace it with a pressure relief valve if you wanted to. For anything over 10 psi, it'll just blow out because the steel operates at about 3 psi. This one will operate at about 2.5, 3 psi. So it's not a lot of pressure in this to able to build up. It's got a 2.5 inch opening there at the top that goes into that football cap. So it's a good size. It's not going to clog up on you. And you can put copper mesh inside that football chamber. And there's other stuff you can put fruit in there to infuse. You can put some botanicals in there if you want to make a gin to help infuse. So yeah, it's a pretty good little setup for home use, and it's flat on the bottom, so it's not cake steels are nice, but you can't use those on the stove. Like a gas stove, I guess maybe you could use it on one. I don't know. It'd be iffy. I'm not sure how it'd sit right over in the corner. But if you had like a 6 burner or something, you could set it on the middle burners or something. And, if it's set right, yeah, I guess you could do it, or a turkey fry. But yeah, it can be dangerous. So, you got to be familiar with it, and you can't walk away and leave, and can't sit there and drink, and shouldn't sit in Facebook like I do. But, I'm right next to it, so I'll keep an eye on it. But yeah, you got to be careful. Accidents can definitely easily happen. What's going on, Dexter? Good to see you, brother. Doing good. How about yourself, man? Hibiscus whiskey. That sounds good, man. I used to have some big old hibiscus plants at the old house, man. They were the moonflowers. I called them moonflowers. These were the big white, like bigger than a paper plate, man. They were big, huge blooms. They were pretty. What's going on, Chris? Good to see you, brother. Hope you're doing well. That's good. Now you don't have to ferment it dry if you don't want a dry beverage. You can stop it at 1.050 or not 1.050, 1.005 right before it gets to one, and have some kind of sweetness. Because when you ferment it dry, it does affect the dryness of the actual distillate. You will be able to tell that. That's why I'm wanting to get this. That's why I really got to run this vodka before um, I can deal with all this column stuff, because it's just going to get dry if I don't. So I'm just going to have to run it and jar it up and run it again. When they can get me the part. Yeah, it's not aging it at all. No. And I mean, you can leave it in there for a few months and get some aging and esterification, but not enough and not much. And it's just not good. Come on, Joshua. Yeah, I understand, brother. I'd love to have made it too. Family first, man. There'll always be more festivals, and they'll be there next year. Yeah, I like the char and the flavor of the wood and the tannins give it. I really do. I definitely prefer it over just a white dog for sure. I appreciate you, brother. I've forgotten already. What's going on, Frank? So how was popcorn? Yeah, I missed y'all, man. I wished I could have been there, brother. Did y'all have a good time? Anything wild happen? I got a question. Okay. So I did my first corn mash. I had to leave it in the garage for a week. I came back and it didn't do anything. pH was 3.2. So I had some potassium carbonate. Calcium carbonate is what you want to add, not potassium. Calcium carbonate is what you want to add. 4.5, some bubbles now. But I have to leave for a week again on Tuesday. It'll be fine. As long as it's working. Did you get a starting gravity? So getting that hydrometer and having that and seeing what kind of conversion you got and how much sugars you're starting with is really important. So, if it that way you can kind of check its progression and see that sugars are getting consumed and it's moving forward. But the pH dropping to 3.2 is typical. It depends on how far along it was. It could have been done a week. It's nothing for a grain fermentation to be done in a week. That's most often 3-5 days. Your grain fermentations will work off. So it may have been worked off already. So that's imperative to get that hydrometer. They're about $4 or $5 on Amazon. They're not expensive. The proofing hydrometers, I get like 3 for 12, so like $4. And buy a couple of them, buy a few of them, both kinds for the proofing and for the triple scale. But having those and knowing how much sugars you started with and checking that sugar progression as it's getting consumed and watching it, like he was talking earlier, about getting pretty close to being dry. He's checking that with his hydrometer so he can tell, or his flavor. But yeah, it's imperative to get that. But calcium carbonate is what you want to use. And I'm going to check potassium carbonate to make sure you're okay. Potash. Yeah, probably not a good idea to use it. Safe and small trace amounts. such as food additives, but it's caustic and corrosive. Skin irritant, damages tissues. Yeah, you might have to pitch it if you use much. You want to use calcium carbonate, which is the oyster shells, right? Yeah, the aging and maturing. There's some differences in the aging process and the maturation. Aging is just pretty much esterification. That's just the you can do that in a jar, you can do it in a barrel, you can do it in a bucket, but it's the natural esterification of the esters and the oils and acids combining to create interesting flavors. So a little bit of that's in your heads, your ethyl acetates from your heads will combine with some of the oils and the hearts and some of the organic acids in the fermentation, and they esterify into flavonols and flavonoids and polyphenols and all these things that create pretty interesting, unique flavors, right? But the maturation, in a barrel is something that is done in a barrel, and it matures as the character of the alcohol being soaked into the wood and respirated over time. So it's part of the aging process, but it's actually maturing it. So it's not just something it's not going to happen without the barrel, right? And that's something that it respires in and out of the pores, and it gets the character of the wood. And the different levels of char will contribute different flavors. So it's definitely going to be something. It's definitely going to be something that you are going to taste more, with that char and the almonds and the vanillas and all this flavor, the nuttiness that you can get from the barrels. So they do kind of intertwine because the maturation does take time. But the aging process, I give that more to the esterification, and it's the same thing in a wine. The exact same process takes place in a wine as well. And since wines have a lot more heads in them and tails, there's a lot more maturation and time involved in getting those mature and those flavors to esterify. And that's why, a lot of your great wines and wines that can stand that time now some fruit wines, they don't age well. They don't age well at all. So after a year or two, they start degrading. Whereas a lot of your grape wines, up into a certain amount of years, will keep improving through that esterification process, and they're basically in a bottle, in glass. Chris, I don't know if you could keep it, bro. Being potassium carbonate, did you use oyster shells or did you use potassium carbonate? Because if you use potash and use much of it, I wouldn't drink it. It's the wrong chemical. It's caustic. It's hard on your skin. You definitely don't want to ingest it. I'm not sure if it will distill off. Um, but if you used potassium carbonate, now when I talk about potassium, it's potassium metabisulfate, and it's a different compound entirely. So not all these, they may sound alike, but one can be toxic, kill you deader than hell. Pure potassium will kill you almost instantly. It's very toxic. But once you make a metabisulfate out of it or potassium sorbate, it's just a different compound, right? So in chemistry, it's just, there's certain things that sound an awful lot alike, very similar. Actually, you can start with one and end with another by changing a few, changing the compound, and, go from something that's edible to something that's completely toxic, right? So if it was potassium carbonate and you use much of it, I probably wouldn't fool with it, man. But yeah, just get the oyster shells or pickling lime. both of those work real well. If you need something to help boost pH and buffer, you could use that. So double check, make sure if it is potassium carbonate, I'd probably, and you use much of it, I definitely wouldn't take a chance. Yeah, oyster shells. They're cheap. They're real cheap. That's right. Unless you grew it yourself or bought it from a farmer, you know. But that's his job to pay the tax on if you buy it from him. Well, what the oyster shells buffer, what they do is it's not an instant thing like adding baking soda or pickling lime. We recommend pickling lime because it doesn't have the sodium in it, right? It's not sodium bicarbonate. It's a potassium or calcium carbonate. Um, so, no, let's see. Calcium hydroxide. That's what it is. Calcium hydroxide. Similar to calcium carbonate, but it will oxygenize, and it will cause the yeast to go into breeding again, which is also something that the sodium bicarbonate will do, baking soda. But what it does is, as organics are created, organic acids are created in the fermentation process, sometimes like in sugar washes, rums, tequilas, things that are heavy in syrups or sugars, or some brandies that are heavy in sugars because you're using a fruit that doesn't have much in it, like a strawberry or a rhubarb or whatever. You'll have to put those in there so when that all these organic acids are created, they don't get out of control and get to the point where they're going to stress your yeast. Because if it gets down in the twos, it's going to stress your yeast. A lot of your yeast aren't really acclimated for the twos. The threes, 3.2 would have been okay. Most of if you're using anything except a baker's yeast. Now, if you're using a baker's yeast, just regular, Fleischmann's or something like that, you got to be really careful because those aren't acclimated at all for acidity. That's why they're a baking yeast and they're fine to use with grains and stuff. But a lot of times when you do washes and stuff like that, you should probably not use those because they're really not acclimated for the acidity levels that you're about to achieve. And that's why a lot of people say, "Oh, that did a sugar wash with Fleischmann. It smells like ass." Well, there's a reason why, man. It got so acidic that that stressed those yeast to the point where they were creating some really bad congeners and offshoots. And when they stress like that, they will create some bad flavors. So you want to keep your yeast happy. And happy yeast is a happy beast. So, you definitely want to baby your yeast and keep them happy. So if you're using a winemaker's yeast, those are acclimated for getting low pHs. But adding the oyster shells, what happens is as those acids are created, they start eating away at the calcium bicarbonate from the oyster shells, right? And it just kind of eats away at it and it neutralizes themselves. So it doesn't necessarily just immediately boost pH. In fact, it really doesn't want to mix with water at all. I mean, you can add some calcium carbonate to the surface. I talk about it all the time, and it'll just make a white ball. And if you try to stir it, it'll just stick to the spoon. It won't dissolve at all. And you have to literally mish it up and force it to intermingle with the water. And eventually it'll dissolve. You just chop it into so many small pieces that eventually it somewhat dissolves. And over time it will dissolve as the acids are created. If you use the powder, but if you use the shell form, it'll just eat away at that shell until it buffers itself to the point where it just won't get any lower pH. So it's a buffering. But what you want to do is you want to have that acidic environment to start with. So you want to take it down at like 4.5 or 4.3, and then add your, oyster shells to it, and it'll start immediately eating at those shells, and it'll boost it up to 5 something. And that's about what you want to start with. And then you can adjust it when you boil your water and get it to 5.3. And then, that way you have some acid in there and it kind of activates. And once you have both in there, it buffers, right? So just adding them to, 7.0 water, not enough. You need to lower that pH to a lower, 5.3, less than 5.3, and allow those shells to bring it back up to a 5.3, and then you have a buffered solution. So you don't have to do that. 1,000,001 people will say, I've never done that and I've made perfectly good shine. And I'm not saying you have to do it. I'm saying to make it the best and better and be consistent, and make it scientific. And when you open up a distillery, you have to have consistency. So you want to get a set pattern, you want to get a recipe, and you want to do things, a set way. That way you get pretty much the same result every time you do it. Now, as a distiller moonshiner, if you're just making shine, you get varying results. Sometimes it smells like ass. Sometimes it smells like roses, right? And that's why, because it's not structured, doing everything exactly the same way every time. It's an experiment every time you do it. Temperature's hotter, different yeast, different pH, and if you don't tighten it up, and nobody says you have to. I mean, that's one of the beauties of this thing. It's not, there's no facts that says you have to do it this way or you can't get a decent result without doing it this way. It's just that if you do it this way and do it this way every time, and you control the temperatures, you control the pH, you control the environment, you control the distillation with an airlock, and eliminate any bacterias and wild yeast and other things from getting in there, then you can, get consistency. And that's really what it takes to open up a distillery and to produce a bottle that's the same regardless. You're going to always have some small differences after you barrel age it over time and stuff. You're going to have some unique, and that's why a lot of these people are professional blenders. They come in and they'll get a little glass full of each barrel. They'll taste little bits of it and wash it around their mouth, spit it out, cleanse their palate, and they'll do the next. And then they blend based on these things to create a perfect blend to them, and there's going to be unique differences in all these barrels that will allow them to blend to make something fabulous, right? So, but to get consistency. So, a lot of people say, oh, I've never done that. And more power to you. I'm not saying you have to do it this way, but it certainly helps get things from being more consistent and keeping your yeast happy, and less stressed yeast will produce, a better product generally. Now, we've talked to other distillers and stuff, and sometimes, they experiment and they want to stress the yeast. Now, if you want to get more heads per se, and a lot of people say, why in the hell would you want more heads? Well, for aging processes and stuff you're going to age for 4 years, there's certain fruity notes that you can get out of the esters in heads, right? And a lot of these, esters are something that we typically cut out of a white dog because we just want the hearts. But if you want some of those floral notes to, mature over time and age well, like we were just talking about, then you'll sneak a little bit into the heads to get some of these esters and to combine with these acids to create some interesting flavors over time. But drinking it straight off the tap, you don't want them because they just don't, they're not esterified. They don't taste good. They're just, they're acetone and they're chemically tasting and it's not good. But over time, it creates different compounds, and it's like sodium. Pure sodium will kill you in a heartbeat. Somewhat radioactive, you drop it on water and it'll burn. You got to store it in oil. But sodium carbonate is basically baking soda. Sodium bicarbonate is baking soda. So it's got the sodium in it, but it's not toxic anymore. It's different. Sodium chloride, salt, it's something we can eat. So, in chemistry, certain things that are toxic as fuck, like pure sodium, can be good things if it's mixed right, and then done properly. That's the interesting thing about science. These compounds can change completely just based on their molecular compound. Or on the compound. So, pretty interesting, but yeah, it's, a lot of these flavors will combine with acids and the oils and make some unique, interesting flavors over time. But so, there's nothing cut and dry. So when I say, using eggshells or oyster shells, both are calcium carbonate. A lot of people used to use eggshells a lot, but you had to treat them, you had to bake them and I know a lot of people use it in planting, so you can also use these oyster shells. They use it a lot for your chickens, to give your chicken extra calcium and to and put it in their water and give them calcium water to build more calcium, makes their shells harder. And you can use it in gardening too. I use some of these crust oysters. I use some of the powder out of the bottom when I plant my tomatoes and stuff. I also use bone meal too. But so yeah, it helps a lot. But yeah, they're not going to correct your pH really quick. I got off on a tangent, but yeah, they don't instantly change like adding pickling lime is what we want you to was what's best to use. Red potatoes. Well, I got a question, you tater growers. I've not grown taters before. Do you have to just cut the eye off the potato and just leave a little potato with it and just put that in the ground, or do you just put the whole potato in the ground with the eyes and grow several plants, or do you need keep a lot of potato with it to feed it? I've never. Yeah, I've seen the hay bales. Don't do a pickle still. No, no, do not do a pickle still. It's dangerous, man. We were just talking to a guy, blew his up. I don't recommend anybody to use a pickle still, so I'm not going to make any recommendations on that. I'm recommending that you do not do that. That's kind of the end of times, apocalyptic. I need to clean some water, kind of thing. It was done as a joke, It was. You definitely don't want to do the jar on the stove and distill out of it. If you had to in the end of times, if it's water in there, yeah, you can do that for water, and clean some water off. But I definitely wouldn't recommend putting anything flammable in there like a mash or shine or anything like that. But they do, like we were talking earlier, you can get cheap pots like this, $100. They make some 3-pot stills that you're going to have to make some modifications to. But if you're willing to modify a jar, these are much, much safer, much enjoyable. And you'll get, actually, if you're serious about it and want to do the hobby, we highly recommend you use of every 3-pot and make the mods, or get you one of these. These I think range from like 150 to $250. I think they're on sale right now, actually, through Vever. But you can also use a beer keg reefer, definitely, and put it on a turkey fryer and use propane, and you can do 15 gallons, about 13 gallons at a time, and that's 15 and a half to the top. But you can pour about 13 gallons of mash in there and put a little column on it. Let me show you a picture of what the beer keg still was. But we don't recommend anybody doing the pickle or the pickle jar still. That was kind of a joke. Well, end of times, you could do it this way if you had to distill some water and stuff. And Phil said 1,000 times he really regrets doing the video because he's really concerned somebody will get hurt doing it, thinking, that it's okay. And he did it as a joke, kind of. But it's definitely something that you're not going to want to do. But here you can make a beer keg still, kind of like this, out of a beer keg, and you can get some decent production out of it. Because even if you did the pickle jar, you're only going to get a shot's worth of, liquor out of it, and it's just not worth it. It's dangerous, and you're not going to get anything out of it. So if you really want to get in the hobby, I highly recommend doing one of these keg steels on a turkey fryer, or you can get electric elements if you want to step up and do electric elements. You can get different kinds of, you see where that attaches to that keg. You can get something like this to attach on there as well. And Phil Billy and a few other people sell these as well. You probably pick them up a lot of different places, but that right there, a little column with a sight glass, deflegmator, and shotgun condenser, the whole works. Those run about $150. Anywhere from 90 to 150. You can get them on sale sometimes around 90, 80, 90 if you catch a sale on it. Maybe 4th of July sale will be the next one, Independence Day sale. But yeah, and you can set that right on that keg and make some good liquor. But yeah, we don't recommend anybody use the pickle jar still. That was just kind of a apocalyptic. Oh, really? Wow. Yeah, I had a friend of mine that comes in here quite often. He got a little bit of a burn from his doing the same thing. I got another friend that about burned his house and garage down by walking away and smoking a cigarette, coming back, and his was blowing at the seam. So, I mean, the seam's good that it lakes it out like that, or else it would have just built pressure till it blows. But it's definitely an eye opener, and anybody that does this definitely should. After my buddy Phil, Marfugal Phil, uh, happened after his incident happened, he had a fire extinguisher. He's smart, and I think within a week I had me a fire extinguisher here. You know, because that's something you really want to add and have on hand. So, okay, if you have 3 4 gallons left in your mash barrel, 30 gallon, can you add more sugar? And you don't need to add yeast. Um, the yeast is already in there and it's still alive. Once you add some water and help dilute that alcohol that's already been created in there, it'll get it to where it's okay. So yeah, it's called sour mashing. So basically, it's not typically if you're just going to add more corn, it's the old fashioned way, and you can add a little back set, to get your acidity down instead of citric acid. But yeah, you can just convert some more corn, dump it in there, and right on top of the old, that'll be nutrients, and it'll be yeast in there. Don't dump it in there hot though. Wait till it cools down to 90 degrees or so, and then you can dump it in there on it and slowly, you know, don't shock it, but slowly stir it in, and it'll be fine. Now it'll have all the nutrients and all the yeast in there that you'll need, and you can keep doing that all summer long. And then at the end of the summer, you can what you want to do is rinse, add some, good clean water, not tap water, good clean distilled water, or if you have a good stream water to it, and clean it out, right? Sieve through it and run it through, a screen mesh, the little ones you use in the kitchen, and get all your large particles out of grain and stuff like that and other stuff, and clean it up. And by adding water each time, fresh water, and let it settle, pour the water off, add some fresh water. It takes the alcohol out of it, and it also just helps cleanse it, right? And then you can put it in a jar and put it in the refrigerator and save it till next spring when you start running again. Or if you bring it inside and run, you can do it. You can run it in perpetuity. Never have to buy yeast or yeast nutrients again. You can just continuously use it forever and ever and ever. And you don't need the whole thing, so you can jar some of it up and save it. And because you don't want to get too yeasty of a flavor, to just get real yeasty on you. So you can take quite a bit of it out and save it. And after a while, if it's starting to get a little bit too yeasty, you can dump it and get one of them jars and reintroduce it, and you'll never have to buy yeast or nutrients again until of course, if you do a different distillate like a brandy or something, you don't want to necessarily introduce those flavors to your brandy. So you can do the same with a brandy, and just have your brandy, you know, yeast bed and your grain yeast bed and reuse them. And you won't have to buy any nutrients or yeast and for a long time. Reefer, I'm sorry, brother. We're not going to answer that because we don't want somebody to get harmed. And if we answer that question, you get harmed, and people try to start suing people. So, we've definitely advised you not to do it. It's dangerous. So please don't do it. Um, get one of these cheap little 3-pot beavers for $100, or get you a $35 keg steel, $35 keg, and add one of these 80 to 120, $50 columns to it, $150 maybe, in the whole thing. If you can get it for 80 and 30, you'll have less than 125 into a good little keg steel, and if you got a turkey fryer or somebody that's got a propane burner, you can set it on that, and and make you shine that way. Yeah, we appreciate you, brother. We don't want anybody getting hurt, man, but we do want to help you with the hobby, and you sound interested. So find a keg, or if you can afford to buy one of these little Bever 3-pot. Let me show you a picture of the Bever 3-pot. Here's a little Bever 3-pot. This one right here. Let's see. Let me see what sizes these are. Let's see. Here's a 13-gallon one. It's $118. Let me take a picture of it for you. And this is on Bever.com. And I don't work for Bever and shit. And I don't get no kickbacks from Bever or nothing. But on this, I would recommend you will have to work on this. Wrap football steel that I just showed you, you won't have to work on that at all, brother. You'll be able to use that straight out of the box with that football head and with that canister. You'll be able to run pretty good stuff out of it. And you can buy this and put it on top of that Bever with a 2.5 to 2, tri-clamp converter, and run you some vodka, run some high proof off of it. So, but let me show you this 3-pot, and then we can talk about the issues that you can have with it. Now, this is the Bever 3-pot, and I'm going to hide the chat so we can see it. Now, if you see that it's got a condenser sitting right on top of the pot, man, that's just no bueno. It's not good at all. So you can see that it's got what's called a thumper there too. That's the little pot on the top to the right. It's basically, a puke pot, unless you add the downcomer, and it's really undersized as a thumper. But China thought these would be cool little 3-pot steels, and it's very inefficient. The worm in this is way undersized. So yes, I recommend replacing all this plumbing with, if this is, I think, a 13-gallon, let me see, 13.2 gallons, and you can get it for $118. Not a bad deal. And you can do a lot of other stuff with this pot. You can pressure can with it and pressure, and use it for canning. You can use it for distilling water. You can do a lot of other things with it. But we definitely recommend that you replace those little white gaskets that are like on the pot top. These little plastic, I don't know if they're PTFE or what they are, but they're brittle. And when you over tighten them, they'll crack, and they're a problem. And I don't know how many times I've seen biscuit dough on top of these because they cracked, and people just, put biscuit dough on them instead of putting a bulkhead fitting on there and doing it right. I recommend drilling that hole out bigger, putting a bulkhead fitting on there designed for it, and to get rid of that gasket for all. And then tying it into a little bit longer of, a bigger worm in a 5-gallon bucket. Philby makes them. If you want to make your own, 1/2 inch, 3/4, bigger, better, 5/8, you can get the 5/8 in a coil. And if you make a pretty good size, bucket size, 5-gallon bucket size worm, it'd be perfect for a little 13-gallon pot, or, if you want to go up to a keg 15 or a, 18.5 football steel, you could use that same worm for all of it, right? And you'd want to use about 12 feet in a 5-gallon bucket, be plenty. 12, 15 feet be plenty, just enough to make probably 5 or 6 coils around inside that 5-gallon bucket. A lot of people will just put a few pieces of wood there, 3 pieces of wood, kind of triangulated, and just kind of strap it to it. They use pipe strap, or plastic. You could just screw plastic and, but if you buy the copper coiled up in a box, it's not something you're going to have to bend and crimp and fuck up. It's a lot easier to do if you just buy it coiled up and tighten that coil up. And it's softer copper, and you don't have to worry about it. But yeah, we don't want anybody getting hurt making the pickle steel. It was kind of a joke thing. But I mean, if you're in a bad situation and you're in an apocalyptic situation and you're in the wild and you're trying to survive and all you got is a jar, yeah, you could definitely, make it work. But I would only use water in it, and just trying to distill some drinking water. but probably better just to boil the water and drink it anyway. But yeah, these little pots do good once you make the modifications to them. A lot of people throw the little thumper out. You can use it. It probably need a drain in it, so you can drain it as you go, because a lot of times it's gonna overfill. I guess if you keep it on top of that pot like that, it probably stay hot enough to where it won't condense so much. But yeah, you definitely want to get that condenser away from the still, and in a bucket, a larger reservoir of water. So a lot of people, last time I heard somebody's like, I got steam coming out of my condenser. Is that right? Should that be? And I guess they weren't regulating the temperature of the water. And I mean, the water inside these little condensers, if you run them the way they are, has to be iced down. I mean, you have to literally put like a jar like this and fill it full of water and put it in the freezer and make a big ice, thing out of it to sit right in the middle of that coil to keep the water cool enough. Or you have to start packing ice inside there to keep it cool and keep up with it. And it's just a pain in the ass. You don't want to have to do that. So making a bucket, and in the bucket, you can put like a milk jug, right? Freeze a milk jug full of water, freeze it, just set it right in the middle of the bucket inside there, and it'll keep that water cool enough, to where you can condense properly. But yeah, that's the way to do it, man. We don't want anybody getting hurt though, using the pickle still and having that glass break on you. Yep. That's what we're here for, man. We're happy to share with anybody that's wanting to learn the hobby, man. We're just trying to pass it on before we go. Yeah. Now, Candem tablets, like I was talking about earlier, that's potassium metabisulfate. Now, it's far different, critter than the potassium carbonate. Now, I worry about the potassium carbonate because that can be very caustic and very hazardous to your skin, and it'd be hell on your innards if you were to drink it. So definitely not something. It's something I'm concerned about, Chris. If it's better just to pitch it, than to take a chance. If you didn't use much, I don't know, maybe you could dilute it down and double the size of your mash and combine the two and dilute it out and make it less significant. The more you add, if you could triple it or something and try to get it out of there and dilute it down to where it's in trace amounts, may be able to do that. Oh, it was calcium carbonate. Okay, good. I was worried to death about you, brother. I was like, man, please don't do it. Good. I'm glad. Yeah. And potassium carbonate's a very common thing. Potash, it's used in a lot of stuff, but it's kind of like a lye, it's used in soap making and other stuff. So yeah, we don't want that. Yeah. Now, Camden tablets of potassium metabisulfate. And yeah, that's used to kill out any yeast or any bacterias, any lactose or any of that stuff. Yeah, it'll kill lactobacillus. It'll kill off a lot of bacteria and a lot of stuff that you may not want in there. A lot of winemakers use, a lot of brandy makers will use it because they don't want to heat up the fruit, because they feel that when they heat the fruit up to a certain temperature, it takes a lot of the flavor away, which it does, right? So instead of heating it up to a certain 160, 70 degrees to, kind of get a lot of that out, they, all right, I'm gonna have to post that on here. I wish I could have been in that picture. I see old Mikey. Yeah. Let me show this picture here. Yeah, I'll show you in a minute. But yeah. So the Camden tablets just kill everything off. And it's also used at the beginning to kill everything off. And it's also used when it gets down, when you're looking at your gravity, and it's like you want to maintain some sweetness in your wine. So it's like 1.0 0.005 or 1.010, and you want it to be really kind of sweet, you put that potassium metabisulfate in there, and it kills all the yeast off, so it stops fermentation. A lot of people use potassium sorbate because it doesn't produce as much bad flavors as a potassium metabisulfate can. You got to watch your dosage. And so they use potassium sorbate, which neuters the yeast, which makes them so they don't breed anymore, but doesn't kill them, right? They just live out their life, die without breeding again. So, but it will get a little bit drier when you use the sorbate versus the metabisulfate, more of an immediate thing, whereas the sorbate probably want to use a little sooner if you want to maintain that sweetness. But somebody sent me a picture. Look at that motley crew. That's the Popcorn Sutton Jam picture. Everybody there. Wish I could have been there with y'all. Definitely missed it, man. Wish I could have been there. Thanks for the picture, Mikey. I was talking about you earlier at the beginning. It was your ears burning. Yep, I wish I could have been there. Hope y'all have a good time tonight. Tell everybody old Santa said howdy. That's good. I'm glad it stayed pretty cool. I'm glad it's calcium carbonate. Well, now the Camden tablets will kill. The potassium sorbate's the one that neuters. So, right, but you rinse all that out, right? When you make the hominy, that's just a part of the. It's kind of like lye, but you rinse all that out and clean it out, and it doesn't remain. Yeah, oyster shells are good. Yeah, just use them over and over, rinse them and boil them, and you're ready to go again. I rinse them out because they're porous. Rinsing them out kind of gets, but some kind of bacteria can form in those little pores inside there. It's very porous. So when you're boiling the water, throw them in there, right? Throw them in the water that you're boiling to steep or cook your corn in. Throw them in that boiling water and let them stay in there for a little bit, and then get your tongs, pull them out, and then you can add your acid to the water and bring it down to about a 4.5, and then you throw that bag back in there and then start putting in other stuff, or you can wait until after. But it definitely helps with your conversion if you have about a 5.3, 4.8, something like that range. It definitely helps your converting your grains. Hello, Miss Lisa. How are you? Good to see you. Yeah, and I'm that far behind. Damn. Yeah, you don't have to follow these scientific methods. People that follow a recipe that's done a traditional shine the same way since, my great grandfather, we've always done it this exact way. Well, technically, you have developed your own scientific method. It's just that, it doesn't, need the tools or whatever to measure with. So, but you've always done certain amounts, done it a certain way every time. So that's what we're talking about is developing a regime where you do things the same way every time, use the same creek water, so you've developed that, and you can get consistency because everything's the same way. You've got the same, exact regime that you've done every time for over a century. And that's a scientific method, whether you realize it or not. You're still following, a recipe just like you would in a lab, following steps, right? So it's a step process. And as long as you don't deviate from the process, you can get a fairly consistent result. And it's the same thing with the science, that we're talking. It's just that, and I will say this, I did shine back in the days long before, there have been a hydrometer since the 1900s, 1800s, but not in Appalachia. We didn't know about those things, right? They existed, doctors used it, labs used it, but if we could have gotten one off Amazon, which didn't even exist back then, the internet didn't exist back then. You couldn't get all these specialty yeast and all these things that everybody gets now. Maybe some city shiners that had brew shops or something back in the 70s, could have gotten it, but we didn't. But if I could have, for $4, if I could have picked up a hydrometer and it could have helped me measure my sugars and saved money on sugar and made my fermentations better and made it easier to determine when they're ready, yes, I would have used it, and so would have every other shiner. But we would have said, "Oh, I'm not going to do that. It's too complicated." No, it's not complicated at all. If you can read a thermometer, you can read a hydrometer, right? So I'm actually both. Yeah. Yeah, I've got some Scotts in my family. Literally, their last name Scotts, and McCoys and Calls. It was McCalls before they moved over. So yeah, I got quite a few Irish and Scottish in my family. You got a little bit of German, a little bit of English, but mostly Scotch Irish. Yeah, man, I can't wait to run them. The Epsom salt on the cut part of the potato. Let it sit and dry for a few days and then just plant it. So how much potato do I need? Like a quarter of the potato with it, or just a little slice underneath it, or a little wedge with the? I need to know. I got some from the potatoes that I did that. Well, I got like 4 extra bags, and I think some of those I'd like to plant. Now I like the idea of planting them in a bale of straw too. Mix that with some dirt and straw, and they do pretty well. It's easy to get them out of there too. Right. So maybe just a wedge then. Oh, okay. Yeah. Yeah. A lot of the words we use, especially in certain parts of Middle Appalachia, like Eastern Kentucky, West Virginia, down into East Tennessee, Virginia area, even maybe Southeast Ohio. All that region has a specific dialect. Now, mine is quite a bit different than a lot of others, but words like yonder and holler and a lot of these words come from old Scottish and old English and a lot of the old languages. And a lot of the way we talk, you know, is a lot like the Irish, the way we um, kind of combine some words together. It's very unique. They've written some books about it, and it's actually pretty interesting. I've done a little bit of research on it, and it's pretty cool. But yeah, we speak a lot of the same ways a lot of the Irish do, and a lot of the words we use have been handed down over the years. Phosphorus, okay. So get some high phosphorus. Make a note of that. I don't know. Taters so damn cheap. I don't know, and I don't have a lot of room to grow. Maybe I don't know. Maybe I'll just experiment a little with them. But phosphorus. I have to write that down so I can remember to get some. Where's my little notes? I have to tear up paper. There we go. All right, so I need to get me some phosphorus. Paw Ridge on Facebook. We get a lot of pawpaws back home. A lot of people don't know what pawpaws are. Appreciate that, brother. That's interesting to know. Yeah, I'd heard about that. You know, a lot of AI and a lot of groups and like stream platforms and other things, they won't let you use the term hillbilly. That's considered a derogatory, slanderous word, and you know, and a racist, slanderous. You know, it's like the N word, right? And it's like I never knew that. You know, I've always been proud of being a hillbilly. You know, that's what they called everybody in the Appalachians. You know, I guess that kind of came over along with that. But I guess all the people that stayed in the hills were just considered hillbillies. I appreciate Mr. Austin. Yeah, we appreciate Clint here a lot. You know, it's hard for me to handle every single question as they come and give the long-winded explanations. Clint kind of primes them with the typed information, and I follow up with a long-winded response if I can. But that's what we're here for, brother. Help teach people and promote the hobby and make it enjoyable for everybody. Trying to answer questions if they have any. If you have any questions, feel free to ask. I mean, I know for a lot of people beginning, I had a lot of questions, you know, and I ask a lot of questions to, you know, people that wouldn't answer. They're like, I don't know, son, get away from me. I was a little kid, wanting to know about moonshine. They're like, you know, they can't, they were afraid to answer too because they didn't want to get in trouble, but they didn't want to deal with a kid anyway because they want me getting hurt and say, well, he told me how to do it. No, I'll sure put the peach recipe out there. Yeah, I definitely enjoy helping people more than I do working my ass off making it because it's a chore. You know, if it was easy as snapping your fingers and just throwing something in a barrel and be done and you just go. I mean, I don't know with that yellow label, it does make it pretty almost like that, but I haven't tried that with the flavor yet, which I'm going to. I'm going to do the Lazy Man Shine. I'm just going to fill it full of water. I ain't going to fool with the pH adjustments or nothing. I'm just going to fill one full of water. I'm going to add, you know, 2.25 pounds of grain per gallon. And then I'm going to throw that yellow label on top of it. I'm going to walk away. I'm going to do the Lazy Man Shine and just see how it works out. Because, man, if it could save me from boiling water and waiting and, you know, packing it and steeping, trying to wait and measure the temperature and keep adding water and keep the temperature up for an hour and a half, you know, 2 hours. Hell yeah. Yeah, I'll post it. I'll make a note. It'll be in the DIY and in the militia page. An old buddy from high school named Keith Howard from Pike County. What's going on, Scott? Good to see you, brother. All right. Oh, it's well past time by the time I read that. Appreciate you, brother. Yeah, I had to wait till 9/11, but we there. Well, what you need to do is get a bulkhead fitting. You just basically throw the plumbing out. You can reuse some of the plumbing, and you can try to do it with the plumbing, but you're gonna, especially if you're going to like a 13 or a 15 gallon. If you're 5 gallon, it's not a big deal. Yeah, you can use existing plumbing, but if you're going 13, almost triple size, then you're definitely going to want to use something bigger than the 3/8, whatever that they're using, probably a 3/8. I don't even think it's half. But yeah, just get a bulkhead fitting and drill that top out. And the bulkhead fittings are weldingless, solderless, so you can just basically tighten it up. It uses gaskets, and once you put it there, it's fine, and it'll be a compression fitting that you can go off of. Or you can use a tri-clamp. Let me show you a tri-clamp fitting that comes off that real quick here. That and we'll just say 1 inch. So some of those have rubber gaskets. You don't want to do anything with a rubber gasket. So, wow, you want to use a silicone gasket, something with a silicone gasket in it. But this is homebrew, so it'll work. Those are pretty expensive. It's for 2 of them, so that's $13 each. Let's see. And don't use the PVC ones. Yeah, this is a 1.5-inch tri-clamp, $16. Not too bad of a deal, but it'll allow you to go tri-clamp. It's got the silicone fitting and all that. And I will post the explanation. I don't think this gives up any of my info on it, but let me just take it down to there. And they've got a 2-inch as well. Let me just click on the 2-inch, because that's what I would go with, is the 2-inch, because everything I have is 2-inch. $17, and it'll fit this column that I'm showing here. So you can come off this your pot with this column. Now you're going to have to probably run a wire from the ceiling, or you're going to have to, chain or something to help support it, because the weight of that, heavy, top heavy, it's not going to support it real well. But here's the 2-inch. Let me go ahead and just make another screenshot of that. $17, not a bad price. I'll probably buy one. I didn't. Let me put that up here, Doug. Then I'll share the links. But here it is, and this is on Amazon. May be able to find it other place pretty cheaply, but you can see, you just drill a hole, and then tighten this up real good and tight. It's silicone, so it's going to be good. You can put a little silicone grease around it, food grade, and to get a good seal. And then you can just run 2-inch, like that, like the column here that I was showing. This is a 2-inch. You can run it right off that. So you can make a hole, and you can clog these holes up, and see right in the middle, there's an indentation in the top center of this pot. That's where I'd just get a hole saw and drill and put that hole, and put this right in there. And it'll be a 1.5-inch tri-clamp fitting, and or a 2-inch, and you'll be able to go right off that into the column, right off your pot. Or they make fittings that'll go from 2-inch down to 5/8. If you want to go straight from a 2-inch into a 5/8 copper, they make that as well, where you could go from a tri-clamp into a compression fitting for your copper worm. And that'd be easy to come right off an elbow, and then go from tri-clamp 2 to a 5/8 or an inch, or whatever size your copper is. I'll show you that fitting as well. So it'll look well. This goes to a 2-inch to a half. Let me see if I can find some 2-inch to. You'll have to do some research probably here. No, it's half two. But anyway, let me show you this and you'll know what I'm talking about and you'll be able to find them. So let me make a little screenshot of those. So this right here goes from, let me take some of these other, shit, trying to remove it. Trying to remove some of these other ones that I've shown. And then let me show you this one. So see, you can go straight from a 2-inch tri-clamp off an elbow. So you got that 2-inch coming on that pot, and then you just go into a 2-inch elbow coming over, and then you can go to a tube, right? The spools, what they call it, 12 inches, get it away from the pot, and then you go into this. And then you could, any fitting copper, this is an MPET, so you can go into, a copper fitting, compression fitting or whatever you wanted to with this. It's 1/2 inch. You can go 2-inch to 5/8. I'm sure you can find that somewhere. And it'd be pretty common as well. And then you just go right into compression fitting or directly into your copper with that and into your copper worm, right? Easy peasy. That's why the tri-clamp system is so good. It's so modular. You can just take out the tri-clamp and put anything else on there. So you can put big copper, caps on top of on top of that pot. You can make a whiskey cap, helmet, lots of different things. It makes it a lot more modular. And just get rid of that. And it's just got that one hole in that. You could probably put a valve in there, right? A little valve to open up when you're done running. That way you want to implode. If you got thumpers and other things in line, just put a little valve in there, open it up when you're done, when you turn your heat off, and just open that thing up. And that way you don't have to worry about it. And that's what you put in the hole that's existing there. So that'll work too. Well, let me share these links real quick and then I'll be right back. Just give me a second. There it is. All right. Yeah, we're back. Yeah, the 3-pot, you're basically buying it for that bottom pot because you're going to get rid of the little thumper that's not really big enough to be a thumper. You're going to get rid of the worm on it, so it's way too small and it's not far enough away from the steel. If you get a 5-gallon, you can probably use the existing plumbing, but you're still going to want to get a little bit bigger reservoir, for your condenser. But do plumb it away. And you could probably use some of the plumbing that goes to the thumper and out of the thumper and just, put a union there and just run it out further. But when you do buy the 3 pots, it's going to require a little bit of work to get them to really function good. You can make them work right out of the box, but it takes a lot of work keeping that condenser water cold enough and packing it with ice and having a bunch of ice on hand and crushed ice because the cubes aren't going to be. Then it overflows and it's just a pain in the butt. And it's you're going to have to plumb it to get it away from the top anyway, or else you're going to have cold water running down the side and overflowing, and it's just a mess. It's just not good. So you're going to have to make some modifications right out of the gate, but it's $100 pot, and for that size, for a 13-gallon stainless pot, $100 ain't bad. If you price it, look around, for a 13, 15-gallon pot, stainless pot with a lid that'll clamp down. I mean, not a bad price for just that pot, right? But if you get that pot and that bulkhead, you be in pretty decent shape. But get a 13. Don't get a 5 or a 6 because you're just going to regret it. And it may end up being your next thumper because if you get 13 or 15, then that 5-gallon pot will be a decent proper size thumper. So you can use it for that. But yeah, they're nightmares to run. Right out of the box, they're just no bueno. Appreciate you, brother. Got them out there. And you could probably rig that the small stainless pot to make a good decent little thumper out of it. But the little thumper that came with it, and the little condenser, I don't even call it a flake. It's not even a flake. That little pot, condenser pot, yeah, they're not worth it. You can either Facebook Marketplace, you can pick them up there, or if you like beer, you can go to a place and get a beer keg and pay. I think they charge a $50 deposit and just keep the keg. You don't have to take it back. Just pay a $50 deposit and they'll just keep your deposit and you keep the keg. But you can find them laying around at the back of a fraternity house. But a lot of times, bar, you might find one at, a bar owner may say, oh, well, let me pay like $30 deposit. Yeah, if you need one, I'll sell it to you $30, But yeah, you can find them in Facebook Marketplace for around 30, 25, $35, 30, 40, bucks on Facebook Marketplace. Just look up beer keg and you can find a good used one. Just be careful taking the spear out. You got to let the pressure out and make sure you're standing right over top of it when you push that in, if you like a good beer bath. But yeah, just take the pressure out. There's videos on how to take out the little ring, the ring inside there that holds it in place, and the lock ring. So you have to pull that out and do it without damaging the top and bugging it up. And so follow those instructions. But yeah, that's, get your beer keg and then get your pressure washer, get in there and wash it out real good and clean it out real good and dry it. And you'd be ready to go, man. You can make cake steel out of them, set them on top of a turkey fryer, and you ready to go, bro. Yeah, we unfortunately have a lot of iron curtains, don't we? Yeah. Yeah, sassafras. The saffron was once considered a toxin, so you definitely want to try to get the saffron out. But making sassafras tea and getting the saffron out, yeah, it's makes good sassafras tea. But yeah, the saffron can be dangerous. And I know what else it can be used for, but we can't talk about that on here. But yeah, you can make your own root beer, and a lot of people use it to help flavor some root beer. Really interesting. So you've done the straw method. Yeah, I figured I'd mix it with dirt. I'd just make it kind of thin my dirt out and keep it a little bit more aired out and easier to harvest. That's up to you, bro. I would highly recommend just a beer keg because you can run a lot more in it. It's cheaper initially, and you can like I say you can buy uh, this little column from anywhere from 80 to 150 bucks put on that thing, and you can run some high proof. I mean, I've got 187 proof running out of exactly that right there coming off my Vever. That right there exactly. You can get 180 some proof with that deflegmator running, cool water in that. I've got 187 out of it, no problem at all. So you can make you some vodka coming out of that in high proof, and it's good. And just put some copper mesh in there to take out your sulfites. And hell yeah, man, you can run some good shine out of beer kegs, and they're very, very sturdy too. So you don't really have to worry about imploding it. But if you just run that column off of it, you won't ever have to worry about implosion. It's open air. It can breathe. But yeah, you'll like it. Trust me, you'll be really happy, and you'll be happy with the amount you get. With these little pots, 5 gallon pot, it's great to see if you want to get into the hobby, and it's great. That little 5 gallon pot will be your next thumper. But most people, they'll do it once or twice. They'll be hooked. And then next thing you know, within 3 to 6 months, they're looking for a 15 gallon, 20 gallon. They're wanting to buy one of these football steels, or they're getting a keg, or they're getting some copper, copper steel off somebody. So yeah, it's definitely just skip the beginning process and just go right onto it. I'd save you a lot of money, because if you think you're going to like the hobby, you're going to love the hobby, right? It's a little bit of work, but it's a whole lot of reward. Man, I got a dry ass elbow. Can't see it on there, but man, this some bitch is flaking up. But yeah, I'd either go with the beer keg or the football steel. Definitely that right there. It's going to cost you a little bit more. It's going to be about the same as this, but it's going to be a little more versatile. This you really can't cook on a stovetop at all, or on a hot plate at all. You can do electric. This you can run on a stovetop. You can run it on that turkey fryer. You can put an element in the side for electric if you want to. It's a little bit more expensive though, probably. By the time it's 15 and a half or 18 and a half I've got is about 230 bucks right now. So, it's going to be a little bit more expensive than this column or a keg in that column on there, right? But not by a whole lot. And it's both are very versatile. But which one you go with is up to you. If you got a turkey fryer ready to go and you don't want to, put a whole lot of money into it, find you a good cheap beer keg, get that column. Fieldbilly carries them. I'm pretty sure you get them off Amazon, eBay, other people, other steel builders will have them. I do highly recommend buying them that way, because if you add all those parts up separately, it comes up to a hell of a lot more than the 100, 120 or 50 they cost, as a package, for sure. I bought 2 of them just for the parts. Come on, Chris. Good to see you, brother. Yeah, kegs are, and another good thing about a keg is, other than its durability, it can be sitting in the corner and somebody says, "Oh, you got a beer keg sitting over there." They don't say, "Oh, you got a moonshine still sitting over there," right? So you keep that column hidden, and it's just a beer keg. Kind of hard to say about a football steel. That's awesome, brother. I love to hear that. Yeah, I use bone meal a lot. I use it on my tomatoes. I use calcium carbonate and bone meal both. Yeah. I mean, right here it is. So this is your beer keg, and that is a column. It's a little bit different than the other column I show, but there's a lot of different varieties. I wouldn't recommend this particular column. The one I showed, I think, is a little better. It's got a little taller spool on it. This does have a tube and shell. It's more of a Liebig type condenser, whereas this one out here is a shotgun condenser. So this tube has like 5 individual small stainless tubes inside of it where water circulates. So it's a much more efficient cooling tube. And it's got a pretty good deflagmator as well, where this one does kind of a tube and shell type deflagmator on the other one. So getting one like this is definitely, this is 2-inch. It'll fit right on top of that keg. I recommend you just putting your copper mesh right inside this sight glass so you can keep an eye on it. And, you can run something in the bottom to help keep it trapped inside there. But yeah, it's, I would definitely get a keg in this little column right here, and you'll be good to go. And then eventually, if you want to run a little bit lower proof and you want to do some whiskeys and some brandies, then you can get up a Philbilly or Wayne from Ozark and some of these guys and get you a little cap, a little whiskey helmet or cap to come off of it. And it'll fit with the tri-clamp, fit right in. That's the beauty of it is so modular. You can add all kinds of attachments to it and create, a lot of different type of steel. Very versatile. A little behind here, so I'm going to try to read and get caught up. Yeah, totes make a perfectly fine raised bed, don't they? Put a few holes in it. Yep. Yeah, there's some videos on how to take your keg spears out. Philbilly's got some good videos on it. So just go to Philbilly. All right, on the very bottom here, this little blue trailer, Philbilly Moonshine 7356 on YouTube. Check out his videos and just look up beer keg and making a beer keg or setting up a beer keg or taking the spear out. And he's got videos on how to do it. You definitely want to get you some needle nose pliers and some screwdrivers and maybe something small that can poke in there once you get it pried out a little bit and then pry it on out. It's just a snap ring, lock ring. I don't have my, let me see. Hold on. Let me go get my book. All right, let's see here what I got. Blueberry. There's my sweet heat white wine. It's all grain. Let's see, I think no, it's my plum wine here. My Slivovich. This is a dark grape, strawberry. Somebody asks me this every week with my peaches because it seems like it's not the only one. It's the only one I don't have. I think they do. Just make me. I never can remember though. All right. It may. Well, let's see. It might be here. I think it was on something small like this. It might have fallen out. Let's see. This is my cherry wine. Yeah, I think it was on something small and it's fallen out, or I've got it somewhere else. But let me pull up a chart for you here. And this chart is also available in the a lot of the channels. Let's see if this is the right one. It's hard to see, but peaches 3 to 6, I think it says here. But I think mine's probably like 5 pounds of peaches per gallon. And then you use your hydrometer. See, thing about a hydrometer is, and the thing about these brandies, you can adjust the amount of fruit you use, but the less fruit, the more sugar, right? So fruit's expensive, so you can kind of substitute a little bit, but you're not making a true brandy when you start using sugar and a lot of sugar. So to use, just the fruit itself takes quite a bit, more fruit to get that sweetness. We also talk about reducing it. You can kind of, use your freezer to help break it up, and then you can use your pectic enzymes to help break them down, especially peaches and any kind of meaty, fruit. So, like an apricot or an apple or even grapes, help break all those cell walls down, so you can get at all the sugars and juices in them. But that's the beauty of having a hydrometer, is you can vary the amount of fruit you use, but you're going to have less fruit, of course, more sugar, or sugar substitute, whatever you, dextrose, whatever you want to use, inverted sugar, panela, raw sugar, 1,000 different ways to do it. There are better ways, things that the yeast prefer, like a dextrose versus that. But so you can use your hydrometer, right? So the less fruit, more sugars you're going to have to add in. Just as you add the sugars, use your hydrometer. Okay, I'm at 1050. Pure peach juice, depending on the sweetness of the peach, you're probably going to get a 1040, 1050. And the more peaches you have per gallon, less water, more peach juice, the more sweet it's going to be. So you dilute it down when you add that water. So it's kind of a balance. So using that hydrometer, you can either add more fruit or you can add some sugar, to get it to where you want it to get. There's certain fruits, no matter how much you use, there's just not enough sugar in them, period, to get them even to a decent point, unless you were to reduce them. So like a strawberry, for example, let's open up the chart here on how much sugar's in each fruit. Boom. So this is fruit sugar levels per 100 grams. You can't see that because of the top. Well, I can't see, but it's per 100 grams of fruit. This is how much grams of sugar. So, for example, a pomegranate will be about 10% sugar because it's got 10 grams per 100 grams. So that's 10%. You look at strawberries down here. It's got less sugar than a fucking grapefruit. Most people would never guess that. But I've done a lot of strawberries, and it doesn't have a lot of sugar in it at all. And no matter, you would really have to reduce the strawberry juices quite a bit to get to the point where you could just mash those in without any sugar. So that's going to be something almost, it's just something you're going to have to add sugar to, right? In which a lot of times people will say, oh, that strawberry shine's kind of hot. Well, hell yeah, it is, because you have to add a lot of sugar to it to get it to the point where you can get some decent numbers out of it to run, right? So it's always going to be kind of hot. The plums, I have to take quite a bit of sugar. Now, there's certain things you can sweeten with, like dextrose, that's going to be a little bit less hot and less stress on the yeast. They like them, and you can feed them little bits at a time, and probably the best way to do it, but it's the hardest way to estimate what your final gravity is going to be. So a lot of people like doing it all initially. That way they get initial gravity reading. They know they have a potential of, 10%, 12%, 8% alcohol by volume. So they'll know pretty much what they're going to have when they're done, right? If all ferments out. So, but yeah, using the hydrometer to make your recipes is pretty handy, because basically a recipe is how many pounds of this fruit, how much sugar into how much water. And then, of course, always add nutrients. None of the fruits have enough nutrients in them to give you the yan and fan you need. So you're always going to need to add a little bit of nutrients. Do not overuse your nutrients. You get this DAP, diammonium phosphate. Some of it has urea, some doesn't. Fermax is basically brand name. It's a Fermax. Definitely don't overuse those. If you overuse it, it's just bad as not having enough, and it can impart some bad flavors. So you definitely don't want to overuse it. Use just enough, and add it in steps. Don't add it all at once. Use a little bit of a time. So if it says, half a teaspoon per gallon, then start out with, a quarter teaspoon per gallon. And then a week later, add that other quarter, right? And step feed it instead of giving it all at once. But using the hydrometer, you can basically make your own recipes and just write down, okay, I use 5 pounds of peaches per gallon, and this is the gravity I got. So I had to add this amount of sugar or dextrose or whatever. And this is the result I got. Okay, next time I'm going to try a little bit more peaches, or maybe, man, those peaches are awful expensive. Maybe I'll go with 3 pounds and maybe add a little more dextrose. Let's see how far I can push it in that direction, how much money I can save and still maintain getting a pretty decent peach shine, and peach brandy. So you can make those adjustments and see. Some people are like, no, I'm not adding any sugar. I'm going to go with 8 pounds of peaches, and I'm going to use those pectic enzymes to break it down. And it's much better that way. I'm not going to add any sugar at all. I want a true brandy, and more power to you, but write everything down and just call it peach wine. Don't call it brandy. Anytime you want to experiment and make notes, call it peach wine or call it all grain beer. That way, if you were to get busted, heaven forbid, you wouldn't have the instructions on how to make shine or brandy. It's beer and wine, which are perfectly legal. And if you get caught with beer in a mash, that's perfectly legal. That's a beer. Here's my recipe on how I make my beer. So unless they catch you distilling it, that's your beer. And if they don't catch you with the fruit, that's my wine. Here's my wine recipe. This is peach wine I make. And it wouldn't hurt to have a few bottles of peach wine too, right? Yeah, beer kegs are great, man. I mean, I graduated to a beer keg in the '80s and never looked back, man. I used the beer keg for a long time until I got a big steel, and they're awesome. My biggest problem with them, I didn't have a pressure washer and I couldn't afford one back then. I was poor, and every month or so I'd have to take it to the car wash and use the car wash to rinse it out, and then come home and rinse it with regular water because no matter how much you try in a car wash, you're always gonna get a little bit of soap in it, even if it's on rinse cycle. So I'd have to come home and pour water into it and shake it and rinse it out good. But that was the only way I was able to really pressure clean the inside and get the crud out. But um, I loved it. But now you can, get these 4-inch, 6-inch ferrules welded into the top, and then get a reducer, and you can get that in there in the arm and scrub it, and it's easy to empty out and put drains on it. You can put a ferrule in the side and put an element in there and run all electric. Yeah, pretty cool. Welcome back, brother. Yeah, I get that from time to time. Knock on wood. I hadn't had it for a while, but this winter when they fixed my internet, they ran the cable along the ground right along my fence, and I've got an underground that I ran because they couldn't, and I ran a fish all the way from the pole to my house, long distance. And no, I didn't. I pulled my TV cable was running through it as well. It was intentionally put there, I guess, is originally for the TV, and so I pulled the TV through with enough line on it to where I could pull it back through and pull a wire through, anyway, with string. So I ended up pulling a section of fiber through my underground, so they could just connect to that anytime they need to do repairs. And this time, I don't know why they just went around on them past that, clipped it, and just ran it along the yard. So they'll have to come back and redo that. I'm gonna make them pull that new fiber through though, since it's plenty long enough. Yeah. Now, right, and when you, if you'll notice, it does require a special gasket. Most of the tri-clamp gaskets will have a ridge on both sides of them, but when you use the keg gasket, it'll have one flat side. That flat side is what fits next to the keg, and then the groove side is what goes into your actual fitting, tri-clamp fitting, and then you'll put the the tri-clamp around it and tighten it up. But it'll have a flat side. Now you can get the silicone ones and use a razor and very carefully cut that flat. But Philbilly's got they're pretty cheap, and he's got the gaskets for the kegs that'll sit flat on there, so you don't have to fool with it and risk leaks and all that. He's got all that for you. What's going on, Kenny? Good to see you, brother. Y'all having a good time down there in the popcorn? I'm a little behind, brother. I hope you're still hanging here with us. I'm definitely behind 30 minutes, man. I'm gotta get caught up. I'm wearing clean out tonight. Yeah, and I only bring up 3 pots because they're inexpensive. You know, you get a 13 gallon for $100, and not everybody can afford, $200-300 to get started in the hobby. And I don't want cost to be a prohibitive thing for them. So if all you got's $100 and you're able to do modifications and able to do some work like that, you can get in it pretty cheap. But I would definitely save up some money. And yeah, most people with a 3 pot, a year or two later, it's skeletonized, man. They're mostly just using the pot and maybe some of the plumbing off of it, and a lot of times even not. But yeah, I recommend at least 5/8, for coming off those, especially if it's more than 5 gallons. You can run off half. It's not a big deal. But I've seen people running 15, 20 gallons steel on half-inch copper, and you can do it, but it's going to create back pressure, and it's not high pressure. I'm not talking about enough pressure for explosion. I'm just talking about enough pressure to increase temperature, because anytime you increase the pressure, you increase the temperature, and it's harder to control the temperature when you have pressure involved. So pressure increases temperature, and then it just makes your distillate run off a lot quicker and under pressure, and it's hotter. So you don't get that separation of cuts like you normally would with a little bit lower temperature and a slower, like a low and slow. But there's a certain point to low and slow where it's just ridiculously low. I've had people like, oh, that's 10 hours yet, and I haven't gotten a dropout, and I'm at 180 degrees. I'm like, and you're not going to get a drop. Well, they said 170 some ethanol would start boiling off. And I'm like, if it's pure ethanol, but that's not going to happen. Don't listen to these people that say that, because they have no experience. They're Google moonshiners. They're TV watching moonshiners. They don't know, because if they've done it before, and have a thermometer on there, they know it's going to be, unless you have a lot of tails in there and a pretty high proof, or making a second run, at 80 proof, you're not getting nothing coming off in the 180s. It's going to be in the 190s before you get 10-12% coming off, the 100 mid 190s. So, and literally I've had people say, it's been 10 hours, man. How long does this take? It's like, you're going to have to increase your temperature, bro. It's got to be about 194 plus before you're going to get anything cooking off. And that's scientific fact. Don't listen to anything anybody says. I can run on 170 and get all this. They're not doing it. That's just not happening. And it doesn't matter unless you have a pressure, or a vacuum still. Now, if you have a vacuum, you're distilling in a vacuum, you can distill at those temperatures and even much lower. But on a regular pot still from a regular shiner, nope, they're not getting it. Poke salad, Allie? Used to eat it when I was a kid. I hadn't in a long time. Yeah, my grandmother, she'd go out and get a little poke and all kinds of different veggies and stuff. Or, well, not veggies, but I guess it's vegetables. But weeds, basically what a lot of people consider weeds. She'd make a hell of a salad with it. And a lot of it is stuff that used to make salads, but it just the industry created iceberg, which is probably one of the worst lettuces ever. Hello, Miss Tammy. I hope you had a good birthday and having a good weekend. I've got poke growing around the house right now, man. Big. It's best to get it when it's kind of small. The berries are somewhat toxic, but they're not as bad. It's not as bad as everybody says it is. There's a lot of misinformation out there, but you got to cook it. Yeah. Yeah. It's just, it's more cost productive to do the iceberg and the other lettuces and other things than to try to grow the poke and a lot of other vegetables that, there's a lot of things that are much higher in vitamin C and have much better flavors and better minerals and nutrients for us. But because it's not as easily commercially grown, they don't do it. But yeah, there's a lot of good plants and stuff. But do definitely know your plants before you start eating wild plants, and make sure you don't pick them out of yards that uses weed and feed and all this other stuff because they can get toxic from that stuff. Just tired of tried to do a run on my 8-gallon beaver still, and it wasn't producing nothing at 178 degrees. Oh well, here we go. Don't listen to those people when they say 170. I didn't see this before. I'm just scrolling down to it, and sure enough, and there's a lot of people that will tell you because ethanol boils at 173.1 degrees. They think you can cook it at 175, and it's just all going to boil right off there. But that's, like I said, those are Google distillers that have no clue what they're talking about. This right here shows a chart that, let me delete this, and you did not do anything wrong. If you look on the left side, this is Fahrenheit. So you go up to 173, which is about halfway between 170 and 75. And you go to the right and pure. Wow, it will boil. That's the boiling point of pure ethanol. But because ethanol is an azeotrope, it combines with water, it combines with ethyl acetate, it combines with a whole host of other isomers and other alcohols in here that in your mash that will also change the boiling point. So the second you add water and methanol has 147 point something boiling point, you don't see it coming all off at 150. Nope, because it's an azeotrope. It changes the boiling point. So as we add water and other oils and other compounds in here that are azeotropic, it changes the boiling point. So again, I was talking earlier about what if we do like 100 or like an 80 proof. If we do a second run, we always tell everybody to take it down to at least 80 proof, better 60, which is 40 on this because it's half the proof. This is percent. So 40 will be 80 proof, right? And you'll see it about 182.5 or so. That's when that will start boiling off. But at 170 something, you ain't even get fog coming off of it. Nothing happens at that temperature because it's azeotropic. And if it were pure ethanol, yes, it would boil at that point. And yes, it would be dangerous at that point too, because it's kind of very dangerous to boil up those alcohol. Those vapors coming off are extremely flammable, like a gasoline. They're very bad. So as we go over to the left, you can see where it says 10. That's about an average mash is around 10%, 8 to 12. our yeast can't do hardly any more other than 18. So most of it's 10, 12. So you could go straight up from 10. You're going to be about a 197, 197 or so, 8. That's when you're going to start seeing things happen. If it's a little higher, if it's 12, you'll get it about 195. If it's 8, you're going to get it closer to 200. So your mash was probably closer. If it didn't do anything till 200, you probably had an 8% mash, which is 16 proof, which is about, what a normal beer, is going to be. So, you didn't do anything wrong at all. It's that you were just misinformed by somebody who doesn't know what they're talking about. So anybody that tells you that you can cook all this off just a little above 173.1, because I've had literally scientists tell me that I didn't know what I was talking about. And I had a buddy that would argue about with everything. Well, I shouldn't say buddy, a person that was part of the community before he got pretty much shunned because he professed to know a lot more than he actually knew. He was pretty good at building stills, but he thought himself as a scientist, which he wasn't. So he brought his scientist buddy on here. There's a nuclear engineer and all this on a submarine, all this shit. And the dude embarrassed himself and he ended up deleting a lot of the comments because once I explained it to him, I guess he Googled it, he got real quiet and both of them got quiet and then they started deleting stuff. So yeah, there's a lot of Google scientists and a lot of Google distillers that profess to know, but this dude didn't know about the acetropes, but he does obviously know. He may know a lot about organic chemistry, and you can learn a lot about chemistry, and you can pass chemistry and not understand azeotropes and not even think about it, and just know, well, I do know that ethanol boils off at 173.1, so any temperature you get your ethanol above that, okay, if it's pure ethanol, you're exactly right, but we're distilling to get the ethanol. We're not starting at 100%. So, it's kind of stupid. But so yeah, you were misinformed, and that's why we're here. To help people that have been misinformed by Google distillers and TV watching distillers that watch the show and are now pros. Got a lot of those in the community. So that's one of the primary reasons we have this, and one of the primary reasons we ask people to ask questions, because there's no question too stupid. And a lot of times people get misinformed, and don't get mad at the people that told you that, because they heard it from some other person. And it just keeps getting, like the very beginning of the show, it just keeps getting passed down the line. And that's why we're here. Yeah, you can have a bath. You'll be taking a little beer bath, which is, at least can squirt you in the eye, I guess, and get under high pressure, kind of hurt you. So, yeah, 3 gallon to 55, boom. Everybody does. They'll start out small. They're like, why in the hell did I buy this little still? And they stick with it because they want to make it pay. And it's like, I'm just not getting enough, and I'm making these little teeny mashes, and it's just about as easy to do a 30-gallon mash as a 5-gallon mash. It's just going to take a little bit longer grinding, or you're going to boil more water. But getting all that equipment out and getting everything out and doing it's half the job, and might as well, make more than you need each run, because you can rack it off and run it as you need it. Yeah. When I reduce it, I should probably have explained that a little better. Reducing it's just like kind of like what they do with sap for syrup, right? From your trees, for maple syrup. So they get that watery sap and they reduce it down and boil it down until they get a syrup. Do the same thing with watermelon juice. You can do the same thing with your fruit juices. You got to be very careful not to scorch it though and burn it, or you ruin it. But yeah, just let it evaporate off as you heat it and stir it and simmer it. Water will come off and it actually sweetens it over time. So yeah, I probably should have explained that. Yeah. Yeah, you don't want to caramelize it, because you caramelize it, you created some no, I didn't get a go, bro. I was going to try to go, but Old Mikey wouldn't stop and get me. He had to take his woman instead of me. Can you believe that? What's going on, Irish? Good to see you, brother. Hello, Miss Marie. Good to see you. Thanks for the Facebook invite. Oh yeah, it's not going to run it all below 190 unless you're running something that you've proofed down. Now you can, when you proof it down to 60, 80 proof, never above 80. I like to go about 60, just be on the safe side. Yeah, you're going to be running it about at 60 proof. That's 30 on here, about 185 on the nose. So that's where your 60 will be. 185 on the nose, you'll start running. Now, if you vacuum distill, you can take it down to 100 degrees, and even the water will boil at 100 degrees under vacuum. Crazy, isn't it? Just pure water. You can boil it, and depending on how many atmospheres negative pressure you got. But yeah, you can boil water at 100 degrees. You can actually use your body temperature to boil water if it's pressurized, right? 98 degrees, just the heat of your body could boil water. If you have enough vacuum in the container that you're holding, you could hold it in your hands and make it boil. That's crazy, isn't it? Yeah, that's science, bro. That's awesome. That's good. Make some memories and take lots of pictures. Is it the roots? Yeah, that's probably what it is. I've always heard them berries will kill you. Don't eat those berries. But yeah, my granny made poke salad all the time and other things. I mean, dandelion leaves and stuff. There's some, starts with a P and it's a wide leaf variety. And Prom, we have to Google it. I can't remember. My mind's not what it used to be, but Promelane or what's it? Maybe it's bromelain. But it's bromelain. Yeah, let's see. But you got to use it. No, it's not. No, that's what comes in. No, it's not bromelain. Anyway, there was a bromelain's what you get out of your pineapples. There was I can't think of the white. It's a wide leaf. Lisa probably knows. Hell, I can't remember, but it's a broadleaf. Looks kind of like a dandelion leaf, but it's a little bit different, a little bit broader leaf and heavy. But she'd have quite a bit of stuff. She'd go out in the woods and come back with a garden salad, better than any salad you'd ever eat. Well, they just never really educated, and a lot of people, they have all this chemistry, and I've had organic and all the chemistries, but if it's not something that you really spend time learning and it's not a focus of the science and you've had so much science that it's really something you don't remember, yeah, it's easy to forget those things. I mean, if you're dealing with nuclear physics and all that, it's kind of easy to forget about azeotropes and all these things, but yeah, the dude was way off. That's right. Yeah, exactly. Turn up the heat till you get it feeling the heat all the way through. Once you stop dripping, then you can cut your heat back and regulate it. But don't. It depends on too um, what kind of heat source you got. If you've got one of those burners that's like a jet burner and it has like one small opening and it focuses the heat in one little small area of a big pot, go easy on those because it's so easy to scorch with those because it puts a lot of heat in one small area. Whereas like one of those bigger banjo burners with lots of little teeny flames will spread that heat out over a larger area. And purslane, yeah, thank you, purslane. Let me see if that's it. I think purslane is the small stuff with the red that I was trying to think of earlier. Um, Let me see. Yeah, purslane is something I was trying to think about earlier with packed with vitamin C that you can add to your salads. It was something different than that. It's similar to a dandelion leaf, but it's even broader and waxier and bigger and denser. But this is what I was trying to think about earlier when I was talking about some of the plants that are packed in. Ow, just pulled down beard here. Packed in vitamin C. Purslane's excellent. And I've got that growing out in my garden. It's got like a purple vein to it, but there's something very similar to it that's toxic. So you have to compare them and make sure that you got the purslane and not the toxic, one. But yeah, I got a lot of it. Actually, I I had it growing wild in my radish bed. I was trying to have some radish comes up and end up with a purslane bed, but I wasn't too upset about that. I like it. But yeah, purslane was what I was trying to think about earlier when I was talking about vitamin C packed. It's great in your salads, but make sure that it's the right one. But yeah, that's definitely one you should know. And it grows in a lot of people's yards, and they cut it back and pull it and try to get rid of it. It grows a lot in cracks on sidewalks and driveways, and it doesn't require a lot of really good care. It grows in some of the worst places, but it's excellent. Yeah, personally, I'm glad you reminded me of that one. That's one I tried to think of earlier when I was talking about all these different ones. I had a bunch of it growing in my little radish bed. I didn't take it out. Yeah, no, no, it's not wild lettuce. It's a very broad leaf. It's very waxy, almost a succulent type leaf, and it's bigger than a dandelion. I wish Lisa was listening. She'd chime in and tell you. Yeah, yeah. Dandelions make good greens. Yeah, definitely do. And the flower make good wine. But man, you have to bend over and pick a million of them, and it just break your back. Yeah, be real careful about that. If it has the copper salts in it, man, it's that's why a lot of people are going with stainless these days, man. The people are just tired of dealing with that's toxic stuff, and if you don't see it in your shine, you might not have enough levels for it to be toxic, but it's still damaging your liver more than just the alcohol alone would, in your system. So um, trying to keep that copper clean, especially the worms and stuff. That's why everybody's going to stainless, man. It's clean, it's pure, and you can use that copper mesh to get all. That's the whole purpose of copper, basically, is it's even heating, which makes good for like skillets and on your pans. You see some of the finest chefs in the world swear by having that copper pan with clad with stainless on top for cleaning, but they have the copper bottoms for the even heating, and that's copper is great for even heating, and it's great for removing sulfites. But aside from that, it's a pain in the ass to maintain, and those copper salts and copper oxides coming off there can be very toxic and hard on your system and cause liver damage and kidney issues and everything else. So right, and it'll be clear until it crystallizes. Once it crystallizes and gets cooled off, it'll but probably not enough in there to really. I don't even know if you can't even run it again to get it out. I'd say that would be probably okay. But if it's ever green or blue coming out of there, or you hold up a jar and it's got a blue or green tint to it, don't do it. Just don't. And that's the beauty of the copper mesh is you can take it out, clean it, take it out, clean it, and once it gets a lot of that oxides built up on it, you can't get it off with your citric acid and water, even using hydrogen peroxide to really make it aggressive. You can't get it off anymore, then just pitch it or recycle it and roll you up another thing of mesh. It's not real expensive, and it works real well. Just make sure that you get the 100% pure mesh and not some coated plated steel, because that's the worst shit ever. It'll ruin a run. But yeah, the any copper oxides come off like that anytime you get a blue or a green distillate, Do not save it. It's trash. It's very toxic and dangerous, and it's going to hurt your organs to drink. Period. Don't listen when anybody else tells you that's facts. And everybody's, well, I'll drink it. I'm fine. Well, you're dumb enough to drink it, so obviously it might have affected your damn brain. You damn sure shouldn't. You shouldn't drink it. Just because you live don't mean it's good, right? People drink that leaded, drink lead from a lead pipe till they died. It was fine until they died, right? Of a young age. Just like back in the old days, kings and queens drank out of pewter and stuff with all kinds of lead in it. It's fine for their aristocracy and all that, but it ate their brains up, man. It made them crazy. Facts. Read about it. No, not kale. Hell, I'll find it. Let me look here. I'll find it. I'll know as soon as I see it. And there's purslane. Might be. Let me see if this is it. Because I think it is. I think this is. No, that's not it. Yep, that's it. It's called plantain. And it's not like the banana plantains. It's a different plantain. But this, I'll show you a picture of it. You'll see this in your yard all the time. And it's got a big, heavy leaf. But it's not like a banana plantain. This is a different weed that you can eat. But make sure you're identifying these things properly, because there's always something like it that's toxin. But you see that little tassel coming off of it and little seeds, you can always identify them by that. But yeah, this is what I was talking about. And it gets pretty big. But that's just another. Y'all probably have this. Best way to clean your worm, just put a cork in one end of it on the outlet at the bottom and just fill it full of citric acid and water and let it sit. And I was going to make a little brush out of it. You can get a bottle brush, and a lot of times they'll have a little loop at one end of it, the metal, that's twisted. And then you can take off some of the nylon to the other side and literally make a loop with the other side and tie a string to it and feed the string through your worm and then tie it to the other end and just pull it through, and it'll help scrub that worm. Wild spinach, yeah. But it's plantain, and it's not the same as the plantain, the banana. They're named the same, but it's considered a sweetgrass. As a poultice for hiking to eliminate bite scrapes or draw out splinters. Pick the flowering heads for their long stems, fold them over, and use it to snap off the shoot flower clothes. Yeah, brought over by the colonists. So it wasn't indigenous to the country. I didn't know that. White man's footstep, because wherever the settlers went, that came along too. Because this was a lot of things they grew back then before iceberg and a lot of these easier to cultivate stuff I was talking about came about. Yeah, first the Indians distrusted it, and then they started eating it, and they liked it too. But yeah, it's very, very common. Here's a better picture of it with the little tassel-like shoots coming off of it. You can tell it by that. But again, with any of these plants, I always make sure that you're identifying them properly, because there's a lot of plants out there that aren't edible. And I don't want to encourage anybody to eat the wrong kind, but you can see that little tassel of flowers coming off of it. We used to pull them off and throw them. But yeah, most everybody will have some of that in eastern U.S. I guess all over. I don't know what regions it's indigenous to, but it's pretty good. Indian salad. My grandmother used to put that and dandelion and purslane and all kinds of stuff, man, in a salad. And then she'd mix it with regular, some romaine. She wasn't big on iceberg. She liked the romaine and other lettuces. And she'd make something called kilt lettuce. They'd cook lettuce. They'd cook this plantain stuff too, and fry it up in bacon grease and eat it. It's good stuff. But they were calling it kilt lettuce. They'd cook it in fat and eat it. How do you make a mash? Now, I know you know. Branch lettuce. That's probably, I don't know, that might come off a tree, but yeah, or a branch. A lot of times branches were called like a branch of a creek and branch of holler. So, but yeah, we used to eat those all the time, man. And they're good fried up too in bacon grease. Absolutely. That's one of the benefits of everybody should get a pictorial guide of edible plants of North America. And it will show you pictures of what you can eat and pictures of something that looks just like it that you can't. But having that pictorial guide, I don't care how they describe it in words and all that. I'm not into all the plants, and I don't know the biology of all the plants and how to identify by terms, but I can look at a picture of something and say, "Yep, that's it," or "Nope, it's not that." But watercress are good. I don't think toe jam has any sugar in it. That's all I'm going to say. Uh, all right. If you're serious about making wine, we can help you. But yeah, ain't no sugars in toe jam, man. That's the wrong kind of jam. Yeah. There's a lot of people doing shrooms again, man. It's a lot of people microdosing, and I've also noticed that they're making some um, they're opening up a little bit to some of the old what we used to consider recreational drugs and things, and using them for therapies now. There's some hallucinogens now that they're starting to use for PTSD and for some other issues and stuff that hopefully it helps people. So, I think marijuana kind of opened a lot of people's eyes. A lot of people realize that a lot of the herbs and a lot of our medicines basically all had origins coming from a lot of these plants and stuff, which is another reason why you got to be very careful. Most plants try to make themselves toxic so other animals won't eat them. A lot of leaves on the trees that we have are toxic, and they try to make themselves toxic so the giraffes and the deer and other animals don't eat them up and eat them up to the browse lines, and eat them all. So they've adapted and tried to create more toxic leaves so animals wouldn't want to eat them anymore. So, so you got to be real careful. A lot of plants have tried to make themselves toxic to self-preserve themselves. So it's adapted over time. Yeah. I guess you could probably. I don't know about toenails, man. That's fucking gross as fuck, isn't it? Uh, yeah. There's a lot of money to be made in ginseng, but you need to make sure that you're picking mature stuff and make a note of where it was and leave a little bit behind so it more can grow. A lot of times people overpick it and just get every bit they can out of greed, and they, and none grows back there or very sparsely. So I always leave the immature stuff behind and just mark it on your map and come back. Most people in the hollers, I've got cousins that spend a lot of time. I've sung with them, but they go out singing. They call it going out singing. Go singing, and and it was just going out and picking ginseng. Actually, my family history, my grandparents on one side, actually my grandmother's side, had a herb business back in the late 1800s and early 1900s, and during the Depression and stuff, a lot of people in Eastern Kentucky, they made a living by bringing herbs and ginseng and different roots and stuff to the dry goods, and they would exchange it for food and or money, and my family would ship it off. And actually, during World War One, they had a big old shipment going overseas, and it got sunk by a they had a whole bunch. They'd saved up for years and sent up a whole bunch on a ship, and went down, and it was many thousands, probably equivalent to $1 million today, but went down. It about broke them. A German U-boat sunk the ship with it, and wasn't insured or nothing, and they lost it. Man, they lost a lot of money on that. But yeah, they helped a lot of people, man, and that's how a lot of people in Eastern Kentucky made it. Silver root and yellow root and ginseng, and making maple syrup. This living off the land. It was a different way of life than what we see today. And yeah, pretty good story. R.T. Greer and Son. It was the dry goods, and they bring in stuff on the paddle boats, beans and stuff from other places, and other farmers would come in and sell their stuff to them, and they'd barter a lot, and trade. And yeah, I used to have a lot of the records and stuff from the 1800s, and a lot of it was written in quill pens and stuff. That so and so brought in 100 pounds of ginseng root, and had stored credit, and they'd live all year, and eat food from the store, on the credit from just the ginseng, and then the different roots and all the stuff they'd bring in. So it's pretty interesting. But that's Call Brothers. That's where how I'm partially related to Willie Clay Call is through my grandmother, the Call family. But I think this was the Greers, which was my grandmother's mother's side was the Greers, and her father's side was the Calls. And her mother's side was one that had the R.T. Greer and had the herb house. And the Calls had the funeral home and the hardware store. And that's the one I'm related to. Willie Clay through was my grandmother's dad on my mom's side. Yeah. You definitely don't want to confuse that with a hemlock. They look just about alike. Yeah, that's why you really need that guide that shows you side for side. This is the edible one. This is the inedible one. And Queen Anne's lace, which is fine. You can eat the roots, and this one will kill you. So, and once you look at the two pictures, it's easy to see, okay, this one has this one doesn't, this one has a purple vein or something, this one doesn't, this one has, jagged leaves, this one's more rounded, this one only has like two jags, this one's all jagged, there's always identifying factors, and you just have to look at the pictures, because I don't want to read some description and try to decide. I want to see the pictures of both, and I compare and decide. And I did that with the purslane, because there's another one similar to the purslane that's poisonous, and you don't eat it. But exactly. So I've got around here somewhere a book that shows all the edible plants in North America. And I recommend anybody get on Amazon and pull that book. I think this one's written by a lady that was actually on Survivor, on not Survivor, but on one of these Survivor type shows. It wasn't the CBS Survivor. She was on Naked and Afraid. No. What was it? Alone. Maybe one of those, like Alone, where they just, she was all by herself. But yeah, she was very, very knowledgeable on plants and stuff. And she wrote a book, and I think this is the one I got. Lisa knows who it is. Yep. Ramps. There's another good example. Yep. Those are good. And there's a lot of berries and, gooseberries, a lot of plants. It's like pawpaws somebody brought up earlier. People, a lot of people have no idea what a pawpaw is. And there's a toxin in the pawpaws too, if you don't eat them right. Let's see, what was that called? Anonacin. Can't remember what the anonacin. Yeah, anonacin. It's a neurotoxin and a mitochondrial inhibitor. But yeah, anonacin. I thought that's what it was. So you got to be careful for a lot of things. Even the edible stuff, if you eat too much, it's not good. You can eat a few pawpaws, but you definitely don't want to overdo the pawpaws. And I'm not sure what temperature it would take to denature that. Anonacin blocks complex vital enzymes in the electron transport chain, effectively starving cells of energy. So it makes your body break down on a cellular level. Not good. Nope, not good. Cetogenesis, which is primarily an anonacin, would serve as a natural defense against pests. That's what I was talking about earlier. A lot of these plants and fruits and stuff have developed over the millions of years since they've been growing, thousands, hundreds of thousands of years. They've developed natural toxins to create pests, which would be us, from eating them, and other animals and insects and other things. But yeah, there's toxicity in it. Only eat the ripe flesh, unripe fruits. Eat only ripe flesh. The unripe fruits, the seeds, and the skin hold the highest concentration of toxins. Avoid processing into extracts or powders, or you can concentrate it. Eat in moderation. So eat only the very ripe ones, and definitely probably best just to eat bananas. But yeah, for pregnant women, it can give you some issues as well. And it doesn't say anything about heating to get rid of the neurotoxin. So, and I've personally dealt with neurotoxins when I got stung by a scorpion fish. So trust me, you don't want to deal with that. The skins and seed, but the pulp all contains anonacin. Yeah. So be very careful eating your pawpaws. And I know people say, "Oh my, we all ate them forever and ever." Well, you might have been. It might have had some impact on you. Maybe they died at 70 instead of 90 as a result. Maybe part of that Alzheimer's and Parkinson's was a result. It's possible. You got truffles, man. That's awesome. I'll tell you something else that's awesome is you can grow saffron. And that's very expensive. Yeah, thistle's edible. Yeah. Well, this book's pretty comprehensive. It breaks down pretty much most all the indigenous plants, in I don't know, by zone. Yeah. Yeah, it's a big thick book. It's got pretty much a lot of good stuff. But yeah, if you can get something that's specific to your area, and that'd be good too. Truffles are awesome. Pecan truffle. Well, that's a new one. Oh, nutty flavor. Native to North America, is mostly commonly found in the southern United States, associated with pecan orchards, although it also found in native forests from Florida into Quebec, Canada, and west to the Rocky Mountains. So it's over a large area. Pecan truffles. Very nutty flavor. Can be sweet. Damn. You got me wanting some. Yeah, those look good. Wow, wow, wow. Um, they sell for about 160 to 300 per pound. So just so you know, they're pretty expensive. So a lot of pecan farmers increase their profits by up to 20-30% by harvesting and propagating these truffles. Interesting. Hell yeah. Nobody's called shot yet this Saturday, and I gotta have one. Damn it! I think you're gonna get drunk with popcorn this weekend. I'd be pretty soused right now. I would be pretty hammered at this point. Almost 11. Yeah, I'd be drunk and having to have her arms crossed. I don't know if Wes made that or he just got some of mine and gave it back to me. It tastes a lot like mine. Pretty damn good, Wes. Pretty damn good. Good sweetness. That sweetness tastes familiar though, man. It's kind of like mine. That's really good stuff. Hell yeah. Sea Shino's about 160, 300 bucks a pound, bro. So try to propagate them. Spread that fungus around, man. Make them grow. Yeah, I don't know. I guess I don't guess it's, I know pigs can find them. They're not toxic at all to dogs or cats. Dogs and pigs can hunt them for you too. You can train your dogs. If you got a good sniffer on them, you can train them how to find them. That's what you want to do. You want to teach that dog to find them and point or sit, and look at him when he smells them and share one with him. And hell yeah, that'd be awesome, wouldn't it? Yeah, my dad's got dementia. My sister died from it. So yeah, yeah, it is. It's tough, man. It's my sister had the frontal temporal dementia like Bruce Willis has, and she went downhill pretty quickly. She died within 4 or 5 years, even after just a simple diagnosis. So happened really quickly, and just it started out with not remembering passwords and having trouble with her computer, and I'd have to go over and help her all the time, and lots of notes everywhere with everything, kind of like what I'm doing now, which worries me. Can't remember anything, have to keep notes of everything, but a lot of people do that. But got to where she couldn't even speak. It just every time she'd speak, it would just be random words coming out. She wasn't able to communicate, and it frustrated her. And she knew she wasn't speaking the right words, but couldn't find the right words. And yeah, it was really tough. But my dad's in his 80s, and he's starting to get dementia as well. But, when you're in your late 80s, that's kind of expected. I'm sure I will. I'm forgetting a lot of stuff, and I probably will too. But hopefully I don't get what my sister had, and just the next 5 or 6 years just be unintelligible. You couldn't even understand her. You could tell a lot of times what she wanted, and she'd use a lot of signs, like thirsty stuff, but she wasn't able to really communicate. And she went to the doctors, and they wanted to have an interview with her to see where it was at. And I mean, you can't even try to just spit out random words like she did. I mean, it was so sad. And then it gets to the point where they don't recognize you, and don't know who you are. That's tough, man. It is. It's a very cruel disease, man. Yeah, you train to smell those things out, man. Yeah, yeah, I understand, brother. Well, shiners are clean. It's not, drinking a little liquor and a little, that's not like fentanyl and shooting up, and smoking meth and stuff. There's a big difference, distinguishable difference. But I understand, I know what you mean. Uh, yeah, my dad, he doesn't talk a lot anymore. And I guess he, just he's happy though. He's blissful. So he's happy, and stepmom takes good care of him. And so that's good. He wants to wander off though. That's the part that scares us a lot. I got to keep an eye on him. He just wants to go, 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 which is, you know, he wants to drive even. It's like no, and he wants to go. Christmas we spend a little time together, and when it's time to go, it's like, let's go. He's up and out of there, and you know, it's pretty tough. Yeah, and he might be using his phone as an alibi. Yeah, while he's out doing stuff. Yeah, I was over at Scott's house. You can track the phone records. I was there the whole time. Gotta watch that. Oh, okay. But yeah, they'll use it as an alibi because they can trace your phone and where that phone was for how long. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, you got to be careful, man. Different times, bro. Different times. People are different. That was awful damn good, though. I'm going to have to go Mississippi shit. God damn, that tastes just like my shit. Wes is getting pretty fucking good, man. I swear to God, this tastes just like mine. Sure does. Yep, it sure does. Yeah. Well, fortunately, my mom, she kept her wits about her through out of her old age and stuff. She was crippled though. She got crippled up and had a lot of arthritis and other issues and couldn't walk and her kind of wrist drew up and her fingers and her toes. She's got the hammer toes and she was all just contorted and had some issue in her neck. Her head was laid on her shoulder so tight that you'd have to get down in between the skin on her head and her shoulder. It almost went to rot where it just stayed next to it all the time, and you'd have to clean it up. And it was just tough, man. I mean, it was so sad, and it's tough to keep clean, and you can smell it infectious and get infected and have to clean it, and you literally sitting there smelling yourself rot, and just smell the infection, and it's just horrible. I don't know. I just soon, I don't want to die like that. I just soon have a heart attack and just go, or a stroke and just go, than to suffer like she did, man. It's so sad to watch. I took care of her till her last breath, man. I helped put her in a body bag. Yeah. I'd say a lot of people lit up, man. I would be if I was there. I don't know. Let's see. Let's pick everybody. Let's see. All right. I would say about 80% of these people are ripped right now. I could point out the ones that are. A lot of my brothers in there, man. Wish I could have been there. Yeah, I understand, man. You just got to kind of go along with them and agree and just try to guess what they want and what they want to do and try to. Yeah, they are, man. It's the saddest way to see them go. My mom, though, I would. I'd rather go with the dementia. The dementia is not as cruel to the individual because to a certain point, they're kind of blissful. Now, my sister never was. She was a fighter and she'd get mad, mean. But my dad, he's just happy. He's just happy and doesn't say a lot. And he's just smiling and happy all the time, which is, if I'm going to go, I want to be that way. But my mom, man, she was just so torn and every joint hurt on her body. Everything was twisted. She had so much arthritis all over her body and her head, in her neck and all the the having to clean and stuff every day, keep the skin cleaning, and it was just so tough, man, dealing with that. Yeah, I'd say old Jason's pretty ripped. I know a lot of them are. Yours is mad. Well, I mean, that's the way my Libby was. She was bitter. She was mean and mad, and oh Lord, she loved going off on me, man. I was always a little brother, and even though I took care of her and tried to do everything I could for her, there wasn't nothing I could do that was right. She was always picking on me, from my childhood till then. But I know she loved me. I helped her a lot, and she was, until that happened. She was kind of a, I wouldn't say bipolar, but she'd give me a lot of shit. But I know she loved me, and she'd be nice to me sometimes too. So it was a little fire and ice kind of thing. Uh, but I know she loved me, and I took care of her until it required a doctor to do. And my ex and my daughter went over and lived and took care of them for a while too when they needed a place. Yeah, that's all right, brother. That's what we're here for, man. That's why we can talk about these things as long as it ain't political. Everybody can sympathize with you, man. Empathize. We've all dealt with it, and that's what we're here for, man. And sometimes it helps get some of this out and talk about it. But yeah, that's what we're here for. That's what brothers do, bro. We're here to help you in any way we can, man. But it is sad to think about my mom. Yeah, she was good to me. My dad grew up kind of old school. He wasn't the love you type, hug type. He was the old school, hard assed. His dad was the same way. Yeah, the love's there, but you're not going to get good job, son, and a lot of that from him. It's like, yeah, well, you should have done it better. It's never enough, and always that hard old school type. That's the way my dad was, but my mom was just she's very loving. That's awesome, man. So that figs, they make good shine. Figs and plums, man. Now, don't figs like have a wasp that can go in there and die as part of the fig process or something? I've I've watched some shows on that. It's amazing about, and that's awesome. I want to read about this. So let's see, figs. Yeah, the fig wasp. Okay, but these wasps will get inside the fig and actually die inside there. Part of the reproductive cycle. It's kind of crazy. Like honeybees spreading pollen, these fig wasps will go in and help, I guess, reproduce. I don't know. Pretty interesting though. I watched a special on it. Yeah, yeah. Appreciate you, brother. Yeah, I didn't know it until I watched that show on them. Man, it was amazing. Then I started thinking about all the figs I ate with that little crunch in there. I think that was a broke down wasp. I still eat the hell out of them though. Did we probably talked about the same damn thing? Yeah, yeah. I'm a creature of habit. I'll repeat myself a lot. Yeah, yeah. They had it a lot tougher than we did, Clint. Yeah, they definitely did. My papa, he was definitely, all the men on that side of the family were the same way. All my uncles, they were always tough like that. That's just the way they grew up, man. Eastern Kentucky tough, grew up in the hills back in the late 1800s, early 1900s. Take some moxie. A lot different than the city boys of today. Yeah, they beat your ass. Yeah, that's spare the rod, spoil the child kind of growing up. I got the belt. Do they do that in grapes and blueberries? I had no idea. Yeah, that little crunchy in the figs. That's little legs of wasp. What's going on, DJ? How you been, brother? Yeah, it has been a while. Hope you're doing good, my friend. Hell yeah, man. I remember we had to go out and pick the switch. Go out and get your switch. And I'd come back with a rotted branch and they'd swing it. It'd break in their hand. And then they'd just go out and pick one of their own, man, get a willow or something, just light you up with it. Yeah, they graduated the belt real quick after that. That's awesome. Yeah. The leather strop. I think they call it a strop. They sharpen those razors with them. Hell yeah. I mean, I didn't get a coat hanger, but I got the belt in the backhand. Yeah, I was abused child, man. I'm calling child service. Yeah. I got my ass beat. I deserved every bit of it. I was a pretty rowdy child, man. I worried them to death too, man. I'd stay out. They couldn't beat me into coming home. I'd come home late. They'd beat the shit out of me. I'd still go out next night and do the same shit. Those little crunchy wasp legs, man. Yummy. Yeah, I've eaten a lot of figs. Love those little fig Newton candies too, or cookies or whatever. Hell, I did. I kept going out, man. I'd do it. They couldn't beat it. I'd do it. I was mean. I just kept going out. I wouldn't come in at dark when the street lights came on. I'd come in at 12, 1 or 2 and be drinking or smoking or doing something. Yeah. Yeah, you want something to cry about? I'll give you something to cry about. Yeah. This day and time, man, they send in social services. We can't believe you've been beating your child. Oh my God, there's a bruise on his buttocks. We're going to take you to court. Do it again. We're taking him away from you. Fuck that shit. That's a bunch of bullshit. That's why kids are the way they are these days. Yep. That's right, Clint. Made us better. We look back knowing we deserved it all. And only people that look back and say, oh, I didn't deserve any of that, or just people wallered in self pity and they know they deserved it. But they want to. There's a lot of professional victims these days. The sad, a lot of people, I know some people too that play the victim up. Watch a lot of game streaming and stuff. And this one particular guy, he's got like a Crohn's disease, right? It's a bowel disorder. And, every once in a while, I guess he throws up a little bit and spends a little more time on the pot than others and has stomach issues. So do I. This dude sits in a wheelchair. He's perfectly fine to walk around, but likes to sit in a wheelchair because it gets sympathy. And he always playing up this stuff for sympathy and, and ulcerative colitis or something like that. I've had chronic colitis. I've had my gallbladder removed. I've got irritable bowel syndrome, and I've got a lot of stomach disorders as well. Probably celiac. I'm a celiac, glutinous issues, and every time I eat, I pretty much get sick. I don't give a fuck. I'm still fat because I like to eat. But there's a lot of people playing professional victims these days. They get a little something wrong with them, and they play it up and play pitiful, and they get all this sympathy from people, and they're sending them stuff. Yeah, yeah. Do you roll around in the wheelchair, Scott, and swear you can't work or do anything and laid up and just don't do nothing? That's the way this dude is. He acts like it's, the worst thing in the world, which, I know it's bad. I had a buddy that had Crohn's, and I know it's a lot worse than what I'm dealing with. So I don't want to be, they're just professional victims. They just know what's wrong. Yeah, you work. This dude, I can't work. I'm disabled. Oh, pitiful me. He's like 30 now and he can't do nothing. I'm sitting on the pot all day, or I'm puked. I can't do nothing. Sits in a wheelchair, man. Gets up and walks around like a normal adult. He's perfectly fit and fine. That likes to sit in that wheelchair. I don't like the dude. I can't stand him. And he got all these girls. They're all, oh, poor guy. Why are you all so mean to him? Because he's a fucking pussy. That's why, Yep. That's right. Yeah, I had to mow, man. We had like a acre and a half yard on a fucking hillside like this. I had to wear baseball cleats to where I wouldn't slide under the slide down the hill with the mower. No self-propelled shit, push mower. I mowed that whole fucking yard. Take me 3 days. By the time I got done, it was about time ready to mow again. And he'd pay me, And then I found out I had this buddy, and I could pay him half of what my dad paid me, and I just had him doing it. So I subbed it out. My dad got madder than hell at me, and then ended up getting that guy to do it for half price, and I got cut out of the deal. It kind of sucked. It's a big ass yard though, man. It's a hillside, and half of it about like that steep. And it's wet grass, be slippery in hell. But I do remember we finally did upgrade to a self-propelled mower because there was a couple areas that were maybe like that. And I got to where I would, I'd tie a string around it and tie it to a tree, and it just wind around the tree. And I'd sit over and watch it. When it get close, I'd go over and undo it and unravel it and go to another tree and mow circles around all the trees in the flat area. And then just push it for the rest of it. I was lazy as fuck. Anything I could do to keep from it, man, I hate it. Yeah, I remember that big wheel, self-propelled. It had big wheels on the back, and when you engaged it, it had like two gears that actually came in contact with the wheels. It wasn't like interior gearing like they do now. It was just two gears that actually touched these hard rubber tires that. Yeah, I just cut it sideways on an angle. Always sideways. I wouldn't go up and down. It's too hard. But I'd go sideways, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. I swear I probably have one leg longer than the other one from doing that. Like those cows that live on the hills. I'm gonna have to have another sippy sip, man. That's good stuff. talk to Wes, man. That stuff damn as good as mine. What the hell? Can't have that shit. We have to de-educate him. That's as good and sweet as my shit, man. I'm gonna have to a talk with old Sam, man. Yeah, mine too. I guess my dad just loved the day when I was 12 and old enough to mow. It's time to mow, son. Mow, bitch. Drinking some apple pie. Awesome. Awesome. Well, I've got some apple up there run. I'm going to run it again to make some apple pie. Oh, yeah, I'm getting the buzz. That's some high proof shit right there. That's 140. A few shots of that'll lube the joints, man. Yeah, I've got to infuse it this time. I just ran the apple. Now I got to do the infusion to get that apple pie. That's what they want for the competition. It's your apple pie clear. So I'm going to get some cider and some spice and do some infusing. Yeah, nothing wrong with lubing up a little bit. Get them joints loosened up. Yeah, feeling pretty good. Let us know how that works out. Is it the third or the quarter horsepower one? I think the third. Phil Billy had a third. I think he's running a 40 gallon or 40 or 50. I think it was a 40. I can't remember. Something like that on a third. And he got that second one to make it a little bit because right at the end it would run it, but at the very end he's having some issues running out the tail quarter. So his might have been quarter. I can't remember if the quarter or third. It's on the video though. It's on his videos. He talks about it. He added that second one, and it was plenty. But yeah, they're pretty good. Oh, absolutely. Yeah, no problem at all. Yeah. Yeah, it's tough growing up in, man. These kids these days, they don't know how good they got it, you know. They don't know. That's for sure. They have no idea how tough times were. And it was even tougher for our parents, you know. I know it was for mine, you know. Well, my mom, they babied my mom, but my uncles and stuff on my mom's side, they didn't baby my Uncle Bill. And my uncles on my dad's side damn sure didn't get babied at all. You know, they grew up rough and all the way back, you know. Mountain men. Tart apple pie's apple pie. Everybody likes that shit sweet, man. Yeah, I'm gonna have to too, see Shine. Mine are starting to as well. I got to get on game, work on my trials, get all that shit taken care of. I don't know, my daughter might want to jump in and play a little bit tonight. So good seeing you, Marie. Good night. Everybody have a great night, and great talking to everybody. Hopefully all our friends down in Maggie and all our brothers and family down in Maggie are having a good, or Maggie, Popcorn, having a good time. And have a safe trip home tomorrow. And we'll see everybody back here on Tuesday the 9th at 8 Eastern. Till then, everybody have a great rest of your week. Shine on. Peace out. Love y'all. We'll see you Tuesday. Good night.